Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City Council work session. Today is August 14th, 2014. We're going to go ahead and get started today with our work session, and then we'll follow that up with our regular City Council meeting at roughly 6:30. With that being said, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mayor Owens.
Present.
Councilmember District 1, Ron Davis.
Present.
Councilmember District 2, Damien Oladapo.
Present.
Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem District 3, Keisha Jeffcoat.
Present.
Councilmember District 4, Patricia Alk.
Present.
Councilmember District 5, TJ Ferguson.
Present.
And Councilmember District 6, Deborah Herndon.
Present.
All present, quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's move right along to item 3, which is agenda items and discussion. Mr. Tanks, I know that you had an item that was on the agenda, the YMCA presentation. Is that presentation still going to happen?
No, Mr. Mayor, at this point, I would ask that we can defer that to another meeting. I talked with the presenters, and we decided to reschedule.
Thank you, sir. That takes us to item 4, which is a pre-regular meeting agenda review. This basically is where we just take some time to go through some of the items that are in our regular agenda that we will have tonight. So I want to just kind of quickly go through some of these. You'll see item 6, I will make note of. That's a public hearing that we're going to have, a public hearing for Mableton 2045. I do believe that we're going to have John Funny and Allison Stewart here for that. Presentations, acknowledgements, and proclamations. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we do have, no, I'm sorry, we don't have any of those. Item 8 is the appointments. There's one appointment, which is the resolution to appoint Greg Fuller to the Mableton Development Authority. I am not 100% sure if Mr. Fuller is going to be here this evening. I spoke with him a couple of months ago about coming, but I'm not sure. If he comes, it's great. He is well aware of the fact that he's going to be appointed. For those of you who may not be aware of Mr. Fuller, he is the current general manager at Six Flags. And we currently do have one position available on the Mableton Development Authority that is for the governing body of the city to appoint. If there's any concerns about the appointment of Mr. Fuller, I'll open the floor so anyone could speak on that. No? Right, fair enough, thank you. I'll make sure I make the remark as well that the not the immediate past president, but presidents in the past of Six Flags have served on the predecessor to Mableton Development Authority, which was the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority. So this is really kind of par for the course to have him serving on that. Item 9 is public comments. Not much to say there. That's, I think, standard. On the consent agenda that we have, there's only a couple items on that. One item to note is the GTS Consulting design service portfolio. This is with GTS. This is the what's called here the future City Hall space, the 1245 Veterans Memorial. You guys know it's Hawthorne Plaza. There's obviously been some traction that's been made on that. Mr. Manager, anything you want to say to that and that 14,950 that we're looking at?
Yes, sir. I may ask Mr. Mayor that we maybe make one minor adjustment. It's not considered the future City Hall. It's going to be our administration offices.
Yeah.
And Mr. Todd Spencer is the architect that is laying down the floor plan and getting everything together before they can go and get mechanical engineering and plumbing drawings to be looked at by building officials. He needs to have this drawing done, and of course it exceeds the 10,000 threshold, so I'm bringing it to council for approval under consent because we've already agreed to the building. But once he does this, then he'll come back and they'll be able to tell us what our portion of build out would be for the administration offices.
Thank you, sir. Anybody got anything for that? All right, 10B will be the part of consent agenda is to approve the regular minutes we've had in the past. There's no unfinished business on the agenda for tonight. There's some new business, which is the consideration of the ordinance, basically amending our 2024 regular meeting schedule. All of you know that kind of defines the when and where of our meetings. So our city manager has some a request to make an update to that ordinance. Mr. Manager.
Yes, sir. It will be the first read of our ordinance to amend the remaining calendar year for council meetings. And I do want council to know the specific purpose is we anticipate to start hiring directors. And one of the missions would be to bring directors before council as the mayor will nominate. And the council may want to at least get a chance to speak with some directors in an executive session format before they make their vote. So I think that's coming up. Plus, we got a few other things with transition of services that we need to start discussing. And so I anticipate we're going to need some meetings that give the council time to ask questions, to know the direction, and be prepared to make some decisions, especially some of the hiring of our department heads here over the next couple of months.
Thank you for that.
Mr. Mayor, I apologize. I don't know if they could follow it, but the dates that right now for the remainder of the year would be September 9th, October 7th, and December 9th. We did skip November because it hits a holiday, and this is the Monday before the first council meeting of September, October, and December. You will see August is included in there. That was a already requested meeting for our zoning consultant to bring up the first draft of the zoning ordinance to discuss with the council.
Duly noted. One thing there with these additional work sessions is it looks like it has no impact on the integrated work sessions, shall we say, which, as we're in today, right, first meeting of the month is when we do this 45-minute session, correct?
Yeah, I think at this point, we decided to keep it on there in case we want to do, as we're doing now, a pre-agenda review.
Great.
It would be a good space for that. It is also worth noting, it is a lot easier to cancel a work session than it is to schedule a special call. It's somewhat of I won't say a headache for our city clerk, but she does tend to get a lot of things have to happen for a special call. It'd be easier just to go ahead and set it and we're set to go. And if we need to cancel, we could. We're going to leave the regularly scheduled meeting, the work sessions before the council meetings there to do exactly what you're doing now, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. All right, there's two other items on our new business, which is the consideration or approval of funding for the Mableton Development Authority Economic Development Services, and then that really ties to item C, which is intergovernmental agreement between the Mableton Development Authority and the City of Mableton for those in economic development services. Now, I think this is something that's really, really important. Obviously, as I've mentioned before, the Mableton Development Authority was part of our objectives this year for our legislative session that we had earlier in the year was to take that on. One of the things that we had said as well was that the Mableton Development Authority needed to be funded. Part of the reason, in my belief, that the South Colorado Redevelopment Authority was never as successful as it was I don't think that it was adequately funded, and I don't think it had the staffing ever in place that it needed to do to truly represent the needs of the people of this area. So again, that was one of our one of our legislative priorities that we were very successful with. Obviously, we have the Development Authority because of that, and at this point in time, we're looking to have that organization provide the economic development services for the city, and then along with that is us establishing a formal agreement in the form of an IGA between the Development Authority and the city. And there is and I'm sure if there's a financial component to that as well, and we'll talk about that to make sure that everyone's aligned in what's going to happen. There's also benefit of that too, that we actually get we'll talk about that, right? Some of those additional benefits. But I think, Mr. Manager, anything you want to add to that before I kind of open the floor on that?
I apologize, Mr. Mayor. Echo, what was your last statement?
Yeah, no, I want to be able to talk about the economic development benefits and then the IGA.
Absolutely.
I know that was one thing that was outstanding from this as we were trying to put some of that stuff together.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I think we were going to have this one on our regular council meeting, and so when that time comes, I will talk about the benefit of this, how it impacts economic development, really city development overall. But without trying to give a class, stress the value and benefit of a development authority and how it will really help Mableton, especially a lot of our revenue base comes right now, as you know, from occupational tax. So if we have a healthy economy, healthy business, that's going to help reduce any tax burden either now or in the future on our residents as we could increase. So a development authority plays a key role in helping the city jumpstart development in specific areas, designated areas, or in general.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just want to, I want to make sure we're able to talk about some of the nuts and bolts around it and some of the funding numbers and stuff that we're going to have in that. And I think that is going to be an item that we're going to talk about.
Is that for today? Do we have any, did you provide a document or anything with the details or anything to be reviewed?
No, Madam Auk, I did not include it with this agenda packet. I will assume full responsibility of that. I sent an email, and that is not appropriate, to be honest with you. I own that. It should be involved with this agenda, but I sent an email here probably an hour ago to each council member. I hope you all got it. If not, I can have something printed and share it that actually breaks down what the funding will go for, but it does not completely define the funding needs. So as the mayor has alluded to, it'll be worth discussing. We can definitely discuss it openly at the council meeting, openly in front of our, in the public about what the request is. But that document that I can have, that should be an email, and I'll admit it was sent here less than an hour ago.
But part of that is there's some discussion we need to have about the intergovernmental agreement.
Oh.
I think that'll be an executive session.
Okay.
Discussion that we'll have about that. So there'll be more specifics.
All right.
Particular to that, I think. All right. Item 13 is other business discussion. There's 2 items here: is commissions, boards, and authorities that had been deferred from a meeting prior to. I just want to make sure that we're going back over from a high level the boards, commission, authorities as we've going down the road now of actually standing these up, putting these in place. The planning commission is about to start, and I think the downtown development authority and a couple of others. I know there's wants and requests that we're having to get these stood up. So I just want to make sure we had a meeting where we discussed this specifically in a town hall, but we haven't discussed it specifically in a council meeting. So we want to take the opportunity to do that before we started literally going through the process of appointing people. Item B for this is Mableton Day anniversary. It says financial benefits to the mayor's educational impact fund. That's an item that Councilwoman Herndon had requested be on the agenda. That was approved. I approved that last week. So we will have some discussions around that specifically. Besides that, I think there's just city manager, just comments across the board, then adjournment. So if there is not anything particular else, what I would request is that, there's some announcements. Does anyone want to make any announcements? Does anyone have any announcements specifically right now?
I do have some questions about about a public hearing. Can we ask questions about that a little bit?
Sure.
Go backtrack. So the hearing today, that's the first step of the comprehensive plan. What's presented, we were just presented with the slideshow. What is that? What the focus areas are going to be? Like, can we change that? If I noticed there wasn't anything for, say, District 6, or there wasn't really anything in my district as far as a focus area to be studied and improved in the comprehensive plan, is that to be discussed today, or is this what can we expect?
I don't, that's, the special focused areas were in the request for qualifications, was something that was stated from the outset. It's worth having a question potentially. I think he's going over what those special areas are, what's going to be included in them, but that was part of the initial request for qualifications.
How were they selected?
Citizen input.
We haven't had citizen input yet.
You get citizen input every day, hopefully. I do.
Okay, so how did Grice get
No,
informed?
no, this was in the request for qualification. So when we put together a request for qualification, that entire document went out, it was approved by the council, and it had those specific areas in it.
And
Please,
May I,
please,
Mayor?
Madam Attorney.
so it sounds like, Councilwoman, you're concerned with whether you have the ability to make modifications and changes, particularly as you get more input from the public. So this part of the process, and I don't want to speak on behalf of John Funny and his group, but they will have to comply with state law. And state law requires 2 public hearings, so there will definitely be a second public hearing. This first public hearing is a preliminary public hearing, and that's where you are notifying the public that the council is undergoing this process. You're giving them notice of the steps and the actions that the group plans to take to facilitate this on behalf of the city. And then once the plan is actually prepared, at that point, there will be a second public hearing for the council, for members of the public to weigh in and get the council input. And throughout that entire process, you'll have the collective council discretion to make modifications as the council desires.
Thank you.
I have a quick question though on that. So should I assume that if certain districts are not included in the comprehensive plan, that during that 20-year period, there will be no focus on those areas, or?
No. So the comp plan is for the entire city in without a doubt, right? And those areas that DCA maintains that says all these elements that have to go into a comp plan are not specific to one district or another. So we want to be very clear about that. I think what Councilwoman Auk was referring to was what DCA refers to as character focus areas. In our comp plan, it's called a special studies area. It's basically one and the same. So those are areas that will have a little deeper dive into. There will be a little more specifics. Like in this area, for example, we have what's called an SSD. It's a special service district that's already been defined from the county and the state. So it's more like that. It's more like taking areas of the city that have specific issues that we want to dig into and work through those. But it in no way it excludes any other part of the city. That's absolutely not what a special focus or character area is. And every comprehensive plan has character areas in it or special focus areas in it. So it's not unlike any other plan that would be out there.
Did you say the qualifications were actually in that, like where the areas would be?
Yes, ma'am. They were in the request for qualification. Okay, with that said, it takes us, anything else? Anybody have anything else? All right, so this takes us to item 6, which is executive session. This is executive session for litigation, real estate, personnel, and exceptions. At this point in time, I will entertain a motion to take us into executive session for real estate, litigation, and personnel.
I'd like to make a motion to take us into executive session for litigation, real estate, and personnel.
Hold on, I'll continue conversation on something. So,
There's a motion on the floor.
this is a work session to discuss this.
There's a motion that's on the floor.
It hasn't been seconded, so is it really a motion on the floor?
No, it has not. We're waiting for a second. As soon as we have a second, I will. Okay, so we have a second, so there's time for discussion. Councilwoman Herndon, go ahead, please. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Auk. My apologies.
I'm sorry, was the motion to go into executive
It
session?
was.
So what?
Do you have anything to?
Yes, I had some more questions about the qualifications, about the request for qualifications, as we weren't notified who was even the recipient of that Grice was winning the contract until that meeting. It was revealed to us. How could we have had time to review that to know if these areas were in the request?
The request for qualification is what initially went out to all 6 companies. It wasn't something specific to Grice. Request for qualifications is the document, was basically the it was the RFQ that went out to everyone. Out of everyone it went out to, we got 6 responses back. So this didn't go to just Grice after the fact. This was part of the core document that we sent out as far as the request for the comp plan itself. So no, this wasn't something specific to Grice. This was something that, I don't remember when it was sent out in February.
Yeah, I actually just asked Susan to confirm that. She said March.
It was due March 1st, but it was sent out sometime in February. And then, but prior to that, we had reviewed it, approved it before it went out to everyone. So this is definitely not anything new as it relates to those areas. But again, as the attorney said, once we start going through, today is basically, you can call it a kickoff, if you will, right? It's the first opportunity that Grice is coming in, talking about the comp plan. We want to make sure we do it at a city council meeting in lieu of doing it in a town hall, because we want to make sure we have the biggest audience possible for it. We also want to make sure it was streamed so people that could not make the meeting would be able to see that information. So again, it's not new, but the reason we're having this this public hearing is so that everyone can be able to take part in here. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of going to executive session for litigation, real estate, and personnel say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Ayes have it. We'll go into executive session. Now, believe we have the room upstairs, the round room, where we have about 30. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending our Mableton City Council meeting today. Is August 14th. You are in attendance of the Mableton City Council regular meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's currently 6:43. Madam Clerk, would you please? Oh.
Mayor, we'll need to close the work session.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's right. We had been in work session, guys, so we had been here a little bit before. My apologies.
Yeah, the executive session and the work
what'd I
session.
say?
Yeah.
Work session. We were in work session, exactly. We were both. Okay. I would like to entertain a motion to return from executive session back into a regular meeting.
A motion to return from the executive session.
Thank you. Have a second? Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor of closing out our executive session, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. We're therefore closing executive session. So please belay my earlier comments. We will now adjourn the work session that was in before. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the work session.
May I enter a motion to adjourn the work session?
Thank you, sir. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. It's been made and duly seconded. All those in favor of adjourning the work session, please say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The work session has been adjourned. Apologize for that snafu. All right, now let's open up our regular.
Mayor, yeah. Yeah, Susan says she needs about 3 to 4 minutes if
Oh,
you
just
can
for,
allow.
so that to work, okay. So James, you catch that? Okay, thank you. We're also working with some new software today, so show us some grace.
And Mayor, Susan's ready when you are.
Okay, yes. James, are you ready, sir? Now, I will officially call this meeting to order, the regular city council meeting of August 14, 2024. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll at this time?
Mayor Owens,
Present.
Councilmember District 1, Ron Davis,
Present.
Councilmember District 2, Damiela Dapo,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember District 3, Keisha Jeffcoat,
Present.
Councilmember District 4, Patricia Alk,
Present.
Councilmember District 5, TJ Ferguson,
Present.
and Councilmember District 6, Deborah Herndon.
Present.
Quorum present.
Thank you for that, Madam Clerk. This takes us to item 3. Councilman Davis, you might lead us in the invocation, please, sir. Yes, sir.
Let us bow. Heavenly, most gracious God, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for your grace and mercy always, and always thankful for your protection and guidance. Father, we pray right now that as this meeting starts, Father God, that your presence will be there to guide us, strengthen us, Father God, and give us the unity that we need to make this city what it can be. So we just thank you right now. We praise you and honor you in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Councilman Ferguson, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Please stand if you may.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. All right, this takes us to the approval of agenda. Council, you've been provided a copy of the agenda prior to the meeting. At this point in time, I would ask for approval to, or entertain a motion to approve this agenda as written.
A motion to approve this agenda as written.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councilman. All those in favor of any discussion on this item?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, I actually recommend item 13B be removed from the agenda for executive session components.
Item 13B. With that being said, I'd like to entertain a
Sorry,
motion.
what is that item?
Item 13B, he said.
Oh, you're asking for it to be removed?
I apologize. Table for executive session components.
Okay, so the city management asked for that to be tabled till after executive session? Oh, thank
Is there a
you.
reason for that?
We can have,
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Is there a reason for it? Like,
Possible litigation?
all those in favor of, oh, no, I'm sorry. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the item requested by the city manager for item 13B.
So, I'm sorry, I can barely hear.
He has to be tabled until after executive session. Item 13B.
isn't the point of the discussion so the public will be privy to witnessing it? I mean, by executive session, it would
He
be,
said table to after executive.
Well, no, he said for discussion during executive session because of the executive session exemption components of that discussion.
did we not just go to executive session, discuss litigation?
Well, I think what he's saying is that if further discussion is needed because of certain threats that have been made and certain executive session parameters, that the law basically encourages you to have these type
Did
discussions in private.
we not just do that?
Well, I think you plan to also do it publicly. So what he's saying, to the extent you plan to do it publicly, he is recommending that you defer that conversation to, that you take it back private.
I think the whole purpose for that this particular section is so that the public would have an understanding about the questions that have been raised with respect to this issue. So I'm not really understanding at this point why we're removing it from public discussion.
It is a recommendation, not a motion.
Yeah, it is, so we don't have to do that. So if I'll entertain a motion, as I just mentioned before, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the recommendation of moving item 13B.
I'm getting confused. Did you say remove 13B?
No, he said to
Move 13B, yes, okay. We gotta be very, very clear. So we're not taking it off of the agenda, we are moving it from where it sits right now at 13B to basically be 18.
Well, he's just made a recommendation.
Right, that's the
I'm sorry,
recommendation.
I'm having a hard time hearing, and the acoustics in here are a little difficult. So can you say what you said again?
Okay, I was recommending, and I want to stress the word recommend because I'm not a member of the council. You all can definitely vote in any direction you choose after the mayor makes calls that type of thing to order. And my recommendation was to move this item 13B off of public discussion and bring it into executive session for executive session components. This should remain an executive session per my recommendation. That's my recommendation. You all are voting on the agenda, what items should be on the agenda, and I'm recommending that one comes out of public discussion and goes into executive session. Again, I do stress that's my recommendation.
So again, with the city manager's recommendation, I'll entertain a motion as it relates to this item 5, which is approval of the agenda, to approve the agenda with the recommendation that the that the city managers made relate to 13B.
I move that we approve the agenda with the exception of moving the item number 13 to executive session for discussion.
Thank you. We have a second?
I second.
It's been
I'm
seconded.
sorry, the motion made was to have it only discussed in executive session? Or is the motion, you're asking for it to be removed from public discussion?
Yes, that's my recommendation, that it go in executive session, not public discussion.
Okay, it's been moved and duly seconded. There's been some discussion. We'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the agenda with the city manager's recommendation of moving item 13B to executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
Was that not?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Sorry, you guys having a sidebar?
Yeah, sorry. Are we still going to discuss it, or is it completely moved and it's not going to be any discussion at all?
No,
in
it's
public?
going to be discussed in executive session if the request that the city manager has made.
That's my recommendation.
Okay, so just moved. Okay.
Coming out of executive session, it's whatever comes out of executive discussion, or executive section, sorry. So the call to question has been made. We're now going to vote. All those in favor of approving the agenda as written with the exception that the city manager's made for item 13B to be discussed in executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
There's 3 ayes, there's 4 noes, so it fails. Please note, city clerk, that yes votes were Councilman Davis, Councilwoman Jeffcoat, and Mayor Owens. The others were to the negative. So that does not pass, so we'll move on. I will now entertain another motion or to approve the agenda as written.
I'm going to enter a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Thank you.
second.
Approval's been, the motion has been made and duly seconded. All those in favor of moving forward with the agenda as written, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Thank you. We'll move forward. Next takes us to item 6. Item 6 is what I consider a milestone, a landmark component to our city. This is a public hearing. This public hearing is about Mableton 2045, which is our comprehensive plan. So on the agenda, it literally says public hearing. This will be a public hearing as we've had a few before within the city, not many. I want to make sure that you all are aware of public hearings. Gives an opportunity for, in this case, we have someone coming before us to give a presentation. In this case is about our comp plan for Mableton 2045. Being a public hearing, I do believe that we have an opportunity to hear from the public at the conclusion after the city council, mayor and city council had opportunities to engage and ask questions. So there is a time limit that's on that, I think, and the clerk can clarify that if we get to that point, but I want to make sure that we leave enough time for Mr. Funny to give us an update on this. And I think, we called this earlier a kickoff discussion or a kickoff event. I know you have a PowerPoint. Where's Lily? Are we teed up with that? With the PowerPoint? Mr. Funny, are you ready for it?
Yeah, I can get started while they're
so
queuing
please
that
take
up.
the floor, Mr. Funny.
Sure. Let me say good evening to Mayor and Council. First, let me thank the Mayor and Council for selecting the Grice Consulting Group team to develop your inaugural comprehensive plan, which is a very important document that's required by DCA. Again, I'm John J. Funny, the President and CEO of Grice Consulting Group. I will serve as your project director, and with me is Allison Stewart-Harris. She will be the assistant project director for this opportunity. Let me share a bit about Grice Consulting Group because this is the first time I have this opportunity to introduce the firm to the full council. The firm was established in 1995. So next year, we'll be celebrating 30 years in business. Susan, I always tell everyone I started at 5, remember that. We have our corporate office here in Atlanta, and we work on projects throughout the world, focusing on city and urban planning, transportation engineering, intelligent transportation systems, and program management. Me personally, a little bit about my background, because we're going to be working very closely over the next 14, 16 months, so you need to know who's working with you. I have 37 years of experience in the planning and engineering arena. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in civil engineering from South Carolina State University, and I have a Master's in public policy and urban planning from the University of Southern California. We've worked on over 50 comprehensive plans, and that's us collectively, TSW and Grice. And we've worked on nearly over 100 special area plans as you look at how do you want an area to look, touch, and feel into the future. That includes the small area plan, sub-area plan, livable centers initiatives, transit-oriented development, corridor plans, and many more. Locally, we've worked for the City of Atlanta, DeKalb County, Fulton County, Sandy Springs, Spalding County, Meriwether, Atlanta Beltline, to name a few. Nationally, we've worked with cities such as Washington, D.C., Prince George's County, Maryland, Arlington County, Virginia, Columbia, South Carolina, again, to name a few. And then internationally, we've worked on planning efforts in Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi, Jamaica, and that wasn't vacation, that was actual work, Amsterdam, and again, that's just to name a few. Our planning studio involved the activity that engages the community. It brings the community together to give input into the vision that's being created for the city. Being that it's a new city, this is your opportunity to create the footprint of what you would like the city to be, to look, touch, and feel 20 years out. The staff that we're working with at the city, our city manager, Mr. Tanks, we're working with Allison Benson, not to confuse with Allison Stewart. We're going to call her Ash during this project. And then Susan is our clerk that's going to be working with us because many of the aspects of this plan, we have to notify the public, information has to be sent out, so we work very closely with the clerk in that fashion. And then Lily Smith is going to assist us also with the effort. Again, I'm the project director with Grice Consulting Group. We have Allison Stewart-Harris with TSW. Nick Johnson with TSW is going to be working on the effort. Content Terry, she's going to be leading our public engagement component. And then Todd Long with Atlas. And then we have Todd Noel, which is going to work with us on the economic analysis of the area to make sure that we're looking at the market to identify what's here today and what needs to be here in the future that can be supported within the market. And then we have Sheila Edwards, who will be supporting Content Terry with the public engagement communication component. Next slide, please. So just a bit about the project overview. Next slide. What does a comprehensive plan does? It really sets the long-term vision for a city. It gives you an opportunity to engage the community as well as the policymakers to identify what's the vision for this city. And it usually includes land use, transportation, economic development, and housing. Those are all the areas, and there are a few more areas that we're going to look at also, such as broadband and sustainability initiative. But it allows us to create a plan that's going to pour into the future land use of the city of Mableton. So from the discussions that will go on from meetings and stakeholder meetings, public engagement, throughout the initial process, stakeholder interviews, and we're going to talk about that a little later, it gives us an opportunity to really pour into the future land use for the city of city of Mableton.
Watch it, buddy.
I'm sorry. By doing that, you have an opportunity to capitalize the voices of individuals that are going to be working on the plan. It also provides a 5-year work program that will be developed for the city as a part of this effort so that if there are policy initiative that needs to be established or a policy that needs to be adopted, or if there are other planning exercises that needs to be taken into consideration, that will be identified in the work program. As I mentioned earlier, this is a requirement of DCA. Next slide, please. DCA is the actual Department of Community Affairs. They actually serve as the gatekeeper to make sure that cities are certified and have their certification in order to receive funding from different buckets of funds that either come from the state or from the federal government. So the comprehensive plan serves as an advisory document. It's a document that really guides the city as you look to progress into the future. It's not a regulatory document. The regulatory document comes when you look at specific zoning requirements. So just to distinguish between the two, the comp plan is really looking at, we like to say, the 40,000 feet in the air. What's the vision of the city? How do we want the city to look, touch, and feel from housing, from transportation, from land use development throughout the city? So this gives you that policy document that you can utilize as you have developer that may show up and want to do a development. Does it fit within the vision of the comp plan? Because keep in mind, the comp plan has involved a lot of stakeholders, the community, the policymakers. So when a developer shows up, you have a guiding document that you can reference to say, yes, that meets the requirement as it relates to what we were expecting to occur in that particular area. Next slide. What are the benefits to the city? Again, it documents the community needs and opportunities. There's a lot of meetings that will be held over the next 12, 14, 15 months. And from those meetings, we will be capturing information that we receive from the policymakers, mayor and council. We'll be capturing information received from stakeholders. We'll also be capturing information from our general public meetings. We'll have a series of meetings throughout this effort, and Allison will go into that a little bit later. Again, DCA certifies new cities. In this situation, they call it the QLG. It gives you that status where it allows you to go after federal dollars and state dollars to actually spend funds within the city. Here's an example of that. Georgia Department of Transportation allows funding for paving. They call it the LARP, Local Area Repaving Program. You can't get that funding if you're not a certified city. So that's an example on the funding side. It provides the community to have input and control over the process in your community, in this city. And this is a great opportunity because it's your city, and you get to determine what fits well within the context of your city. Now, what we would do as professionals, we will look at your input and make sense of it to figure out how would that fit within the context of a land use map. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we'll explain to you why it may not work or why it wouldn't work or why it would work. We want you to know the pros and cons of each scenario that's developed. Next slide. Special area study, we noted in the request, there are 5 special areas that we will be focusing on, and those areas go a bit further than a comp plan, and that was intentional because those are areas that are prime ripe for change, but it needs a guide, it needs a roadmap. So as a part of our planning process, there are 5 identified areas that we will be going, I would say, to the 10,000 feet level. Remember, the comp plan is at 40,000 feet, but we're going to get a little more granular and go to the 10,000 feet level to look at these special areas. And what that does is it provides you with the more detailed, specific plans to look at what can be successful in that area. I referenced Noel Consultant earlier. That's their specialty. Their specialty is looking at the market, studying the market, figuring out what's missing in this area, and coming back to the planning team and saying, here are some elements that's missing from the area, incorporated in that special area plan. And that's the real focus, to make sure that we have the right fit for these special areas. And I always use the example, Walmart. You don't need 5 Walmart within a certain drive range because you're over-tapping the area. So 4 of the 5 is not going to be successful, because somebody is going to realize that, hey, my drive time to Walmart is 5 minutes here. I don't want to drive 10 minutes to go to Walmart. I'll drive 5 minutes. So we're going to be looking at those type of niche needs for this community, for the area, for the city, these special areas. And Todd has worked with us, oh my goodness, some 30 years already. We worked on the Atlanta Beltline together, and that's what they did. They came in and did all of our market studies and identify what was the missing gap, what's missing from this area. And if anyone have visited the Atlanta Beltline, it's been very successful because they hit it on the head. The market that we have driven to that area has been successful because there was a missing gap that was fulfilled with the sub-area plans that we've worked on within the Atlanta Beltline. So what are the 5 areas? The 5 areas are the Veterans Memorial Corridor, City Center, Historic Main Street, Riverside Parkway, and the Six Flags District. Those are 5 areas that we're going to be doing the 10,000 feet in the air look into the area to figure out what's needed and coming up with a plan that's only going to have some good rendering and visual of what could fit in that area based upon the needs. Allison, I think I've ran into your slide. So at this time, I'll bring up Allison Ash, and she'll talk to you about why do both plan as well as the project schedule. Thank you, Allison.
Great. Thank you, John. Good evening, everyone. I just want to spend a couple of minutes talking a little bit about why do these small area plans now. This was part of your RFP that you sent out, but we think this is a really fantastic idea, not just because of what John was saying and that, you know, these small area plans really help you dig into those details, but just from a process perspective, when we're working up here, we're creating these high-level policies. What these small area plans let us do is they really let us test those out and say, okay, if we apply this to this specific area of Mableton, how does this impact it? Is this really what we want to do? So it's a really good sort of check and balance to make sure that these policies up here are really going to work for the community. So that's one of the things that we think is really special about this process, and we're really looking forward to working with you all on this. Next slide, please. So this process is a little bit over 1 year long. You can see in sort of that September, October range is when we will be shooting for adoption. There's a lot of different steps that we need to go through. And since y'all are a new city, and a big part of why you're a new city is that you want that vision over your land use, you want to have a little more control over that. We really want to make sure that we get this right, and we're working with you all on this very closely. So over the next few months, we are going to be really digging into some of those existing conditions, say, okay, here's where Mableton's at right now, year zero. Let's talk about where we want to be. Let's talk about those visions and goals. But really that bulk of the work is in all of those blue bars. So November through June, we're really digging into those needs and opportunities. We're talking about different strategies. We're applying those to those small areas. And we're really making sure that we are helping you all create your foundational plan for how you want to grow. Starting around July, August, John mentioned that we'll be doing a work program. This is a required part of your comprehensive plan. This is really focused on your next 5 years. This is your to-do list. I do want to note that a comprehensive plan has a 20-year horizon, so we'll be talking about stuff that is very far into the future, but we're also going to say, okay, these are the first steps to getting there, and that's what that community work program is. There is a specified adoption process that we need to go through with the state, so we'll be starting that early in the fall next year. Next slide, please. A big part of what we are going to be doing is community engagement. We have a number of different ways that we'll be reaching out to folks. So one part of community engagement is just getting the word out, letting folks know, hey, you know, we're Mableton now. We are starting our planning process. We want as many voices as possible to be part of this. So we will have an interactive website. We'll be doing some branding. We'll have a lot of emails. We'll have social media updates. We'll have a newsletter. In the next couple of months, we are also going to start kicking off our stakeholder interviews. So we're going to be talking to a lot of community leaders, a lot of folks who've been involved with Mableton, some folks who want to get involved with Mableton. We're also going to have a steering committee. This is one of the requirements that the state has. So these will be folks that will be with us throughout the process, where we as your consultant team will say, hey, you know, here's some of our ideas. Here's what we're hearing. Here's what we think. Give us some feedback on how we want to move forward. We'll then have a series of public meetings. So we'll have 2 series, one more in the beginning of the process where we're really mostly listening and say, okay, what are the things you all really want to see? What are the biggest needs? And then when we come back to you again in meeting series 2, we'll say, okay, here are some of the ideas that we have. Let's get your thoughts on these. Next slide, please. All right, John, I think this is back to you. Yep.
Thank you, Allison. In addition to the public engagement, we will also be available to attend pop-ups. So if a city have an event throughout the city, we will have a team at that pop-up, because with the comp plan, we never get enough community input. So we will have pop-up at these, every event that comes up, you'll see our faces, so get to know us. But we do that intentionally because sometimes it's hard getting the public to come to a meeting room, but they'll go to a community event, and we have teams that will be stationed at these different events. Next step, we're in the throe of collecting a lot of data. There are a lot of plans that have been done, either by the county, by ARC, by the Mableton Coalition. We need to collect all of those plans and make sense of it. We need to understand the intent of those plans. We need to understand what can be extracted from those plans, because believe it or not, there could be some meaningful pieces that would translate well in the comprehensive plan. So we don't want to throw out all the old plans that has been done, but we'll collect them, we'll go through them and make certain that we extract what's relevant to this opportunity to basically fold it into the comp planning process. So we're collecting a lot of data. You'll be hearing from us, Allison. We have a list of data needs, and it's a new city, and that's something we're going to be very flexible. We're actually going to task a team within our group to go out and get a lot of the data, because we know you're a new city, and that's not something that you may have sitting on your bookshelf. So we'll be collecting most of it. We will share with you the list of data that we're going to be going out to seek and sought. And in the situation where we have to notify an agency, we will send you the information that was requested from the agency on our behalf. We will begin the initial existing condition analysis. That can happen, that can start, and we've already started some initial work on that, because that's taking a look at what's here now, coming up with the GIS mapping and looking at the lay of the land to understand the existing condition that exists today, not only in land use, but transportation, housing, the economics. Everybody has to do an assessment of the existing conditions, so that's something that's underway. Community engagement, Allison referenced earlier that we will begin to start sending invitations to our steering committee members, because we would like to start interviewing them. We're ready now, to be honest with you. But we will await getting that list from the city because we want to start these interview process. Every voice is important in the comp plan process. Every input is important, and we want to make certain that the steering committee members understand what we're doing, and we want to hear from them. The community engagement plan is a document that's going to be prepared and submitted to the city. It's really going to tell the story of how we're going to involve the community throughout this entire process. So we want to submit that to the city for review and approval so that you can nod your head with us and say you're hitting the right spots. If there are things that we didn't include, we can talk about it. It could be something that could be added. Again, we want to build and launch the website. The website will be built so that any community members, policymakers can go to the website at any given time doing this plan and understand where we are and understand what have transpired since the plan started. It will create more of a lab feel, being that this is your first comprehensive plan. There will be a lot of definition, but it's a lab feel so that you're in the lab and you will understand what we're doing and understand the meaning of what we're doing. So we're going to have a lot of definitions and information on the website because we want everyone to be engaged. And when you're educated, you can then have an intelligent conversation about what we are doing. So I want everybody to be engaged with us. Let's see, I think that's it. That's all I have for you today. Again, I'm John Funny. I will be serving as project director. Allison Ash will be my assistant working on the project. We've worked together, TSW and Grice have worked together, my goodness, since the late 90s. We've done a lot of plans together and we enjoy the collaboration between the firm, and we look forward to producing your inaugural comprehensive plan for the city of Mableton.
Get it right.
Any questions, Mayor?
I actually have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Currently, we haven't taken over like planning and zoning, and Cobb County has, they're still handling that aspect. I was curious as to whether you all have looked at what Cobb County has in store for, various areas in Mableton, and, how that will work with, the design and look and feel. I know we're still getting information, but I was curious as to whether you see anything that will help, or maybe might be an impediment to maybe the overall design, since Cobb County is still building out projects in Mableton.
Really, really good question. So Cobb has developed its countywide comprehensive plan. And it's looking at the county at that 40,000 feet in the air. So some of the priorities for the county may not have rose to the top for this area. So what this plan will do, it will take a different look and a different approach to it, because now you have the immediate stakeholders, the immediate residents, the immediate policymakers that are going to be pouring into the vision of this area. Cobb looked at it from a countywide perspective. Now, some of the things that they've done would apply, but we're going to go a little more granular with this plan than what Cobb did at the 40,000 foot level. Good question, though. I really like that. And you mentioned the zoning piece to it. Our effort won't come up with the zoning, but it will come up with the land use that the zoning has to comply with. You remember the slide I put up about regulatory? So when the land use is defined, you have specific zoning that can fit within that land use area. Commercial. If you designate an area as commercial, housing won't fit in there because it's designated as commercial in your land use map. So we'll get more into that and looking at it in a more granular form for Mableton. Sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hi, good evening. You mentioned that you're going to establish a website. Will that be early on, and if so, how long will it take to establish that?
Yes, good question. The website developer on our team is ready to go. We're pulling information together to get the website going. We're looking at having a draft website by mid-September to send to the city for review and approval, but we want to really have that website up early, because the more information you get out to people early, the better the process will go. Not the biggest thing, everything on the website is going to be big, but one of the pieces that we like people to see is the schedule. We introduced the schedule this evening. When people understand where we are in the process, they know where they can give public input. All of that will be highlighted on the schedule. We would like to establish the meeting dates. We're working with Lily and Allison on coming up with meeting dates that doesn't conflict with anything in the city, because we would like to get all of that up front on the website and people be knowledgeable of the upcoming meetings. And we're talking meetings not just in the next month or two, we're talking about throughout the entire life of the project.
And I also appreciate your go-forward strategy with laying out what that timeline looks like. Do you know whether or not we'll be on track to meet our suspense deadline, to have it submitted to DCA? I know there are a lot of unknown variables that we still have to consider, but I just wanted to kind of get your idea on whether or not, because I know we were, it's crunch time, so I just want to make sure that we are on track.
Yeah, I think once we get the project going and keep DCA advised and informed, we'll get more information from them at that time. But I think all they need to see is progress. So we'll definitely making good progress here over the next 6 to 9 months. So we'll keep them informed of where we are and then take guidance from them as we approach that date.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the presentation, very engaging. One of the things you mentioned as a next step is to interview the steering committee, and I'm really interested in that because they're responsible for determining the priorities, just overall support of the project. So how are you determining who to interview? What is your strategy for picking out the steering committee for this program?
So the steering committee list, we've asked the city, Mayor, we've asked the city to provide us with that list of individuals that would be represented on the steering committee. So we're waiting on that list. I think they're pretty close, actually.
Yeah, that's something that, again, along with our cabs, introducing people, every one of us will have someone to add to the steering committee.
Got it.
On top of local business owners, some of our other officials. So.
Okay.
But that time's coming up, right? I mean, we want to have that in the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
And I would add, and I'm sorry we didn't put that on the slide. We should have put that on the slide. The mayor and council be interviewed also. So it's not just the steering committee. We left off the policymaker, but the mayor and council will also be interviewed, and we will be doing that one-on-one.
Council, any other questions?
To be, just for clarification, so you will be picking the steering committee? And if people are interested, they should contact you?
People should be contacting us. I mean, people have signed up for the steering committee online. We've had that open online for, I think, several months now, where people go and sign up. So Allison's been calling through that list of people that signed up. But absolutely, we say almost every single meeting, if you want to be involved, if you want to be part of it, go out there to a website and sign up. And so, yeah, we're calling through that list, but we're also going to make sure that every person on the council has an appointee. We're also looking at our planning commission, soon to be planning commission. I think we know who most of those are. So the planning commission, it's another reason why I said even at the work session, we've got to accelerate some of our cabs because we want some of those members of those cabs to actually be on the steering committee. So even if it's perspective at this point in time, we need to move forward on that so that we can flesh out. Our ideal number is somewhere between 16 and 19 maybe. So it's, it's a good group of people, but we did not want to fill it up with, and we can talk about this later, but what I wanted to make sure we have happen is representatives from some of those areas, representatives from some of our nonprofits that have been key to some of this work before. You know who you are if you're in the room. And so we want to make sure we have a good cross-section of people across the board. Some of them will come specifically out of our districts as individual appointees, but others represent business, they represent nonprofits. We want to make sure we get a good, cross-reference of the entire city represented on the steering committee.
Yeah. So
there's a,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. There is a state requirement for your steering committee. So you do need to have one person at least representing some sort of economic development type role, and then one elected official. But everybody else is totally up to you all, and agree that 16 to 19 number is a great starting point.
Yep.
How many appointee does each council person get? One?
One.
Just one.
I don't know that we haven't detailed that out specifically, but again, we do want to make sure there's a good cross-reference. And there's people that's already signed up that we're going to go through that list as well.
And is everyone going to be interviewed, including those that we appoint?
So
From our
they will
district?
be steering committee members. So that, I mean, they will ultimately decide who's interviewed, but if you're on the steering committee, you should be expected to be interviewed, yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's a question. I guess we could assume that if someone's on the steering committee, they will be interviewed. I guess they could opt out, but I don't.
If they're on the committee, we want to talk to them.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you emphasizing the different makeup, business, residents, nonprofits, religious organization. We want to hear from all of them because the plan is representing the entire city. And we want to make certain that we do not bifurcate a group that may not be reflective in the plan. So that's something we're very, very careful. We do this very meticulously because sometimes you get to the end of the day when we're ready to get it adopted and there's a group that said we weren't included. But I appreciate the city opening it up to everyone who want to sign up because that way we keep the documentation because we have to provide that to DCA showing how we went about, the members and handled the steering committee and the number of meetings. And we want their input. As we have our different working group meetings, we'll probably have, I think there are like 4 steering committee meetings throughout the process. So they will be engaged, they will be entrenched with us to give us feedback, to give us input so that we can either adjust or help them to understand why something is presented in such a way. So they're going to be very engaged. The stakeholders also will be interviewed as well. We've scheduled time in this plan to interview the stakeholders. Yeah.
And just to add one more item, just because someone's not on the steering committee doesn't mean that they're not going to have a say in the plan. We're going to have lots of different ways for folks to get involved. And, at the end of the day, when we're looking at, all right, what are the biggest needs and opportunities? We're looking at the steering committee, but we're also looking at what did folks say in our survey? What have we been hearing at public meetings? What did we hear in these stakeholder interviews? So I don't want to make it sound like if you're not on the steering committee, too bad. There's lots of other opportunities for folks to be involved.
Can we go to slide 11, please?
She wants to look at slide 11.
Slide 11. Is there a way we can? Wait, one. Back one. That one. Okay, so these are the 5 special interest areas, correct?
Yes, those are the 5 small area plans.
Can these be modified or added or anything changed? So I noticed there isn't any special area for, say, District 6, just so that we would have a comprehensive, something in every district could like the East-West Connector Corridor be examined as a special interest area, or the Concord Covered Bridge Historic District. Is there anything special to be studied for, say, something like that?
Great question. Those are the 5 areas that was included in the request for qualifications that we responded to.
Okay.
But of course, if the city desired to modify our contract to include additional areas, we would be glad to do that. We responded to the 5 areas that was in the actual request for qualifications. But we're not against doing more work. We love planning.
No, it's fine. I think I just need to review the request for qualification.
I'm sorry, Councilmember, I can't hear you.
Oh, I think I just need to review the request for qualifications.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
All right.
So along these same lines, what does that testing look like?
You want to talk to the assessment?
Yeah, so it's more of an informal type of process that we go through. So, typically you start at that highest level, right? And we say, let's take housing, for example, and say, all right, we think we've got some, 10 to 12 really good high-level housing policies for the city of Mableton. Then when we get down into these small area plans and we're actually looking at sites, we've got the market information from our economic development partner. We say, okay, do these policies, how are they applying to this area? And we're like, well, these 6 or 7, these work really well. These other 2, I'm not sure. Do they work in these other ones? Maybe, maybe not. So it's really, again, it's just sort of that feedback loop. There's no formal testing of it, but it's really just a way to make sure that those high-level policies are making their way into the small area plans in a way that's effective for all these different areas of Mableton. And then when we get that feedback, we can go back up to the comprehensive plan policies and make modifications.
And then my other question is, on the project schedule, it speaks to what does plan adoption really look like?
What does plan adoption look like? So The official process for the state of Georgia is we would come and we would present the plan to you all. You would get it ahead of time to take a look at it. At this point in the process, everybody's looked at it. The public's been involved. If once you all say yes, we approve submitting this to the state of Georgia, then we as your consultants, we would send it to the Atlanta Regional Commission and they send it on to the state. They then have, I think it's a 45-day period where they can review. And what they're looking at is they're really just saying, okay, does this plan meet the state requirements as, espoused in our legislation? That's all they're looking at. And so they send comments back within that 45-day period. If there's anything that needs to get fixed, we fix it. Then we come back in front of you and say, okay, these are the comments, these were the revisions. It's now up to you all if you want to adopt this plan moving forward as your land use guiding document. So we come in front of you twice is the short answer.
Gotcha.
I do have one question. A couple of your questions have already been asked that I have, but as a councilman, I just want to know, how can I help you help us? What can I do additionally as a council person that will help you guys help us?
Good question. We always ask our policymakers to be a champion for your comprehensive plan within your district, mayor and mayor pro tem citywide. When you champion the plan and carry the torch throughout your district, your newsletter, your social media handles, help us engage the community. That will be a big help, Councilman Davis. We sometimes get a plan that's underway, and we don't work this way. We like to call ourselves living room style boutique consultants. We don't come in, go away, and show up with a plan, a draft. No, we work collectively with the policymakers and the community to make certain that what's reflected in the plan is the input that we receive from policymakers as well as the community and businesses and visitors. So yes, great question. We will be sending you information that will be in a format where you can push out to your constituents, and we'll be coordinating with the city marketing department because there will be information we'll be pushing out. They'll all be on the website, but sometimes when they hear from you, the champion, and I'm calling you that because you're the representative, and when you speak, they listen. So we need your input and your support in that process.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Were you finished? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead,
Just one
Councilwoman.
quick question.
Sure, no.
Can you just give us just a quick, one-liner for your consultant team, what each one is going to be responsible for?
Sure. Let's go back to the consultant team. There we go. Okay, so Grice Consultant is going to be working with TSW in the city and urban planning, transportation planning. We now like to say mobility planning because it's not just vehicular traffic. We got to look for the scooters and the bikers and skateboarders. So we'll be looking at that piece. TSW will be leading the land use element. Nick is with TSW Land Use. Terry with Content Consultant. She has a public engagement firm that have worked with us on comp plans, sub-area plans since the 90s. And they'll be working with us on community engagement, public engagement, meeting logistics as well. Todd Long with Atlas. They will be supporting Grice on the transportation element. That's a national firm that has a deep bench when it comes to transportation engineering. We like to come up with the planning side of it, but we always need somebody to test it. Here we go, test it to make sure it makes sense. So they're going to be our back check on these. Quality control is so important for this effort, and that's why we have overlap disciplines, or should I say overlap professionals, to make certain that we're delivering quality in addition to substance to the subject area. And then Todd Noel Consultant, again, firm started in the 90s. They do a lot of market economy studies. They work throughout the US as well, where they go in and understand what's the existing lay of the land, where the numbers are coming from. And it's very fascinating to watch them work. They can actually go in and determine, based upon my last 4 digit in my zip code, where I buy hair products. They get to that detail. They can then understand what's missing in this area. If my hair product is not in this area and is sold by a certain store, they're going to say, maybe that store needs to be in this area, but they have a way of the big data world of getting all that data and making sense of it. So you're going to get very excited when you hear Todd present the story about this area, and they will be doing that. And then Sheila Edwards will be supporting content consultant with meeting logistics, communication matters for the plan. All specific to what we feed communication that they have to send out. They're not creating their narrative. They're working with the principals on the project to help tell the narrative of what we want to be told during this process. All right.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? I do have one note to make while that ties a couple of these things together when you're talking about both the adoption process and ARC was mentioned. I've had conversations with ARC and they are actually going to provide someone to be on our steering committee. So we will have someone for Atlanta Regional Committee on our steering committee. At least that's what they committed to, because I felt that that would help tie what we're doing realistically in real time, although they may not live in the city of Mableton. They're members of the regional committee, and that would also help on the back end with the adoption process, that we know 100% that what we're doing, we're submitting something to ARC and they have a member on the steering committee. And I can tell you, they told me point blank that they rarely ever put anybody on steering committees for this. But they understand the situation we're in, and I made a direct ask and quite frankly made a plea to them to be a part of this with us.
You mentioned living in the city. I would highlight at Atlas, there's an engineer planner at Atlas. He lives in Mableton for like 20-some years. Content Terry also used to live in Mableton. And Julie at DCA.
Yes, so the person who actually runs the comprehensive plan program at the state is a Mableton resident. So
Mableton. So you all are covered. No, but it's good to have stakeholders that have an interest in the city's plan.
Anyone else have any questions on the council? There's no other questions for the council, Madam Clerk.
Are you going to open the floor for the public comment? Okay.
Yep. Okay, at this time, no more questions from the council. I would like to go ahead and open the public hearing, giving opportunities from the city an opportunity to come take the podium and express your thoughts.
No one has given me any cards, so it would come from the floor. And there's a 3-minute time limit if anyone wants to speak.
It's open?
This has to be relative to.
Yes.
And this is for the comprehensive plan only, the comprehensive plan.
Thank you. My name is Leroy Che Hutchins, and I am a citizen of the city of Mableton, and I am standing in that capacity only. I'm excited to actually see that we are moving forward with the comp plan. Over the last 7 years, as we worked on determining whether we needed to be a city or not, many of the challenges that we have acknowledged in this comp plan will be addressed. And so I'm appreciative of the 5 different areas that was mentioned. I also did recognize the comments from Councilwoman Alk in regards to the East-West Connector, and just recognizing that the East-West Connector is at 31 years of age. So we do know that big box retail and any area of that magnitude that has a lot of big box, it comes into a need for redevelopment right at the 30-year mark. And so in consideration to what was mentioned, the East-West Connector was one of the areas that was mentioned while creating the information for the city of Mableton. So I would like to add that information as well. But I am glad that we're moving forward. I'm actually satisfied with Grice Consulting. I actually went and did some research and talked to other city council people in Doraville and other places, and they had great things to say in regards to the service that we're about to endeavor in. And so I'm excited, and also excited to hear about the connection with ARC, but I'll save those comments for when I do public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is Derek Cafe. I'm actually a resident of the city of Austell, and I participate in their comprehensive plan. The reason I am here is because As the city of Mableton progresses, you are a huge part of what makes up South Cobb and making this area the best place to live in all of Cobb County. So I'm excited as you guys progress in your endeavor, and also we're looking for collaboration throughout the South Cobb area. So it's something that we're trying to make sure that we have relationships, and that's why I wanted to show up here today to make my face known and know that you have other supporters within the county.
Great, thank you. Any other members of the public? Any members of the staff? All right, with that said, hearing no other comments on the floor, I'll go ahead and close out the public hearing. Public hearing is now officially closed. Mr. Funny, unless you have anything else?
No, I just want to thank the mayor and council for inviting us to launch this plan. We're excited and ready. Well, we already started working. So it was good to give engagement at their onset so that everyone can be aware of what we're doing. And we look forward to working with the neighboring cities as well to be able to see what's bordering the areas we're going to be working with. So thank each of you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate you coming today, taking the time to kick off Mableton 2045. It's here, it's real, it's live. We're super excited to have you guys on board, so thank you. All right, with that, we will move on, and we will keep you guys updated about the website and as we get closer at our meetings to let you know when that's live and when that's ready to go. So we'll make sure we stay connected on that. All right, we're going to move now on to item 7, which we don't have anything for tonight, which is presentations and acknowledgements. Move on to item 8, which is appointments. We do have one appointment tonight, and I was looking around to see if he was here. I'll give a little backstory on this. This is the appointment we're going to, or at least I'm going to nominate tonight, is for Greg Fuller to be a member of the Mableton Development Authority. Now, the Mableton Development Authority came to us by way of the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority. That was one of our legislative agendas for this year, bottom line is, I don't know if there was a lot of sense to have 2 different development authorities in the city that would be citywide. So there was a bill that was put forth to rework the South Cobb Redevelopment Authority into the Mableton Development Authority. That was successful. It did go through both the House and the Senate. Was signed off by Governor Kemp. With that being said, the South Cobb Redevelopment Board is still very much in place, still very much active in the work that they are doing. But with that said, there are some of the compositions changed. The state law changed the composition of the now new Mableton Development Authority about how those appointments can be made, who makes those appointments. So there's 7 people that are on that board, 7 people that are allotted to be on that board. And that there's a breakout there between 5-2, right? Yeah, 5-2. I mean, 5 members of that board will be appointed by the governing body of the city of Mableton. 2 of those board members will be appointed by the Mableton delegation, basically our state reps and state senators. So with that said, there is one opening that currently exists. As I mentioned before, I will nominate Greg Fuller. If you do not know, Greg Fuller is the current general manager of Six Flags. And obviously being one of the largest employers and someone who's an organization that's very integral to the growth and moving forward with our city, it's only right that Greg, in my personal belief, serves on that. There's also history there because previous presidents of Six Flags has sat on not Mr. Zellner, but Mr. Ketzel, who was the president before him, actually was a longtime member on that board. So with that said, I don't think we have Mr. Fuller here, but I would like to take a moment before I actually do the nomination to acknowledge members of the Mableton Development Authority that we do have in-house. If you're a member of the Mableton Development Authority, please stand, please be acknowledged. We have our board chair back there, Jason Gaines, and we have another board member, Sam Colbert, that is here with us. So thank you, gentlemen, for being here. This appointment is the first one for us. Hopefully there will be more as we go in the future, and we look forward to working with you guys a lot more in the future, and we will discuss more of that later on in our agenda today. But with that being said, Mr. Fuller is not here, but I have spoken with him specifically about this appointment. I'm pretty sure Mr. Gaines, board chair, has spoken with him as well. So with that said, I would like to nominate Mr. Fuller to the Mableton Development Authority. So with that said, the nomination has been made. I would like to entertain a motion now on that nomination.
I'll make a motion to nominate or to appoint Mr. Greg Fuller to the Mableton Development Authority.
I second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and duly seconded. All those in favor of moving forward to appoint Greg Fuller as a member of the Mableton Development Authority, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Thank you. The ayes have it. Chairman Gaines will get with Mr. Fuller and let him know of the great news. So thank you. All right, with that being said, we can now move to public comment, which is number 9 on our agenda. Madam Clerk, do you have any public comment cards?
Yes, I've only had one to be turned in, and it's Trey Hutchins.
Thank you. Mr. Hutchins, you recognize, sir.
Thank you. My name is Leroy Trey Hutchins, and tonight I am serving in the capacity of an alumni of Regional Leadership Institute, class of 2023. We are the GOATs. I'm here with Leadership Cobb brother James Hammond, who serves the city as well. And I'm here to just first say congratulations to the recipients of Regional Leadership Institute, class of 2024. We are excited to have our mayor, Mayor Owens, and also our city manager, William Tanks, that have been asked to join that class and to participate this year. And so we're excited about that. Going through that experience on last year, I will tell you, we learned a lot. It was a lot of collaboration, it was a lot of learning, a lot of networking. And so to hear that we are now working through our comp plan and how it intersects with the Atlanta Regional Commission, the information that the two of you will receive will be invaluable to the process as we move forward. I didn't know we had all the other people that will also, that are also in Mableton. That's just exciting to hear. But based on the information that you get from the Atlanta Regional Commission, it is going to really help push us in the right direction. It's going to help to guide our plan of action in regards to our comp plan. And so I'm excited about it. I wish you to the very best and ask that you lean in to all your programming days, your retreats and all that kind of stuff. Both of you have been through Leadership Cobb, so you know what that looks like. This is not Leadership Cobb. but you will learn more about the region and how we affect the region, especially now that we are the largest city in Cobb County, and how Cobb County and how this city will play a pivotal point as it relates to moving challenges that or I should say opportunities that we have regionally, how we can move them forward by way of mobility, housing, public health, and other initiatives that you're going to learn about through that process. So I'm glad that you guys applied. I sit on the committee, so we usually do not have multiple people from the same area, but we were favored enough to have two of our top leaders to be able to serve, and so we're excited to have that happen this year. So welcome, congratulations, and I look forward to seeing both of you on the alumni side next year when you finish.
Appreciate it and look forward to everything that Regional Leadership Institute has in store for City Manager and I. All right, this takes us, and that was the only comment card, so we'll go ahead and close out public comment. Before I do that, I'll take a point of personal privilege and ask Jason Gaines, the chair of the Mableton Development Party, do you have anything, sir, for us tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening to you. Good evening, Council. Again, Jason Gaines, Mableton Development Authority Chair. I didn't have any prepared comments or anything specific I wanted to say. It's been a long time coming, obviously, for Mableton to, get established and start taking these steps to move forward and really, putting its anchor in the ground as far as, cityhood. So being a part of it from the Development Authority perspective is exciting. And I'm looking forward to, what the comp plan process brings. And as we kind of develop this working relationship between our authority and the city, it's going to be great. So I'm looking forward to it and available if anybody has any questions or any concerns they want to share. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. All right, that's going to conclude public comment for today. I'd like to move us on to item 11, which is the consent agenda item, which is consideration and approval of the design service proposal, the scope of work, and the agreement between GTS Consulting and the City of Mableton for architectural service work. It was listed in as our future City Hall. I want to be clear about what this is. We've talked about it before. This is a location at 1245 Veterans Memorial Highway, which is Hawthorne Plaza on Veterans Memorial Highway. This will serve as our administrative office space. As many of you know, we are currently here in the epicenter, right upstairs, where we have some executive and some office space that we're currently renting. This will move us, our administrative offices, 1245 Veterans Memorial Highway. We've already discussed in the past and approved and moved forward on 6116 Mableton Parkway, which will be our operational offices. So I want to make sure everyone's clear about what we're doing. There'll be two bases of operation. One will be operational, that'll be on Mableton Parkway. One will be administrative in nature, which will be on Veterans Memorial. So you already see what we're doing. We're making sure we're getting the city situated in places that is very important to the city. So this consent agenda item is for an approval amount of $14,950. Again, that covers the design work proposal. Scope of work relates to GTS Consulting, which basically will allow us to move forward with building out that space. So at this point in time, I'd like to, and the other item on the consent agenda is the approval of our July 24, 2024 regular meeting minutes. So nothing much to say there. So with that being said, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda as written.
Mayor, I'd enter a motion to approve our consent agenda.
I second.
Thank you. And so moved and properly seconded. I'd like to call for a vote. Any discussion? This is a consent agenda, so I doubt it. All right. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as written, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it. Thank you for that. Moves us along to item 11, which is our unfinished business, which we don't have any for tonight. New business that we have in front of us. There's a couple of items that we need to discuss. First item is the consideration of an ordinance that amends our 2024 regular meeting schedule and for other purposes. As many of you may remember, our meeting times, dates, and locations was codified through an ordinance that we had approved, which laid out all of the dates for the entire 2024 year, along with holidays that we had acknowledged, as well as dates where we would be off for various reasons. So, but with that said, our city manager has asked that we make some amendments to that. So with that being said, Mr. Manager, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor Owens and council members. This I am asking for your support to amend the council's calendar for the rest of this calendar year to reflect work session dates on the Monday before the first council meeting, and that in effect would include a date in September, October, and December. We are also have on this request August the 26th, which will be a work session for our zoning ordinance. The draft to come back, you all were familiar when we had the first draft. He took feedback from the council. He'll come back, our consultant, to discuss where they are with the zoning ordinance, which is prerequisites for setting up our community development department, our planning and zoning, one of the services that the city has asked you all to set up. And so this is a big step in that. The other dates, September 9th, October 7th, and December 9th. We did skip November because of a holiday. Those 3 dates give the council the flexibility to have deeper discussions on certain items that will face us in terms of service transition, staffing, recommendations of department heads that may need to go before the council as the mayor nominates. I would recommend mayor nominates, and then the council approves or disapproves. It's their choice, but you would have an opportunity in a work session in an executive session format to talk directly with candidates. So anticipating these things that are coming up, all the stuff that we'll be dealing with as we get closer and closer to a transition of service, I expect we'll need these extra days to have further and deeper discussions, so you're aware when you do vote on certain things, you're fully informed. So I would request that the council supports this request that we amend the council's calendar for work session dates. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. I think the only question I have for that is just around clarification, is that with these additional work session dates, this is not in lieu of existing ones, this is adding to the ones that we previously already have approved.
Yes, sir, that's correct. This would not eliminate the existing work session dates that occur at, I believe it's 5:15 on the first council meeting. Is it the first council meeting? I believe it's the first council meeting of the month. That gives us about 45 minutes. We would like to keep that in place because it could allow us to do a couple of pre-agenda discussions and also have space if something needs to be discussed before the council and before the vote. So yes, sir, it does not remove, it does include those that already exist.
Thank you, sir. Council, anyone else have any questions? Okay. At this point in time, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the oh, so first read.
First read, yeah.
Yes. So,
yes,
so
I apologize.
Yeah, this is the
first read.
I'm thinking we already approved it in the past. We have, but this is net new. Any questions, discussions from any of the council as relates to what the city managers proposed for adding additional work session days? Hearing none, thank you. We'll close that item out. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Items B and C is consideration and approval of funding for the Mableton Development Authority for Economic Development Services. And C is the consideration and approval of intergovernmental agreement relating to the economic development services with this. And both these were, Mr. Tanks, I know these items you put on there, but this was items of discussion that we wanted to go to executive session and then discuss this afterwards?
Yes, sir. I'm not, I don't think right now we need to have a little bit of discussion about some staffing. Personnel associated with this, and so I would prefer that we discuss it after we talk about some personnel matters in executive session.
Thank you. With that being said, I'd like to entertain a motion to table items 12B and C, which both relate to the Mableton Development Authority Economic Development Services, until after executive session.
I motion to move item 12B and C to after executive session.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second.
Can we open for discussion for a second?
Sure. The motion's been made and duly seconded. Any discussion on this matter?
Is this like an ordinance? Are we going to have like, do we even vote on anything of these items today? So we didn't even have to really, oh, never mind.
I mean, there is a personal matter to discuss as it relates to this.
We could discuss and vote after.
Okay, all those in favor of moving items 12B and C on the agenda till after executive session, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Thank you. With that, we're going to move on to item 13A, which is commissions, authorities, and boards. This was something that was alluded to earlier, and I'm going to make this item pretty short and sweet here. We are moving towards the process of actually starting to go into select members of the community for our boards, authorities, and commissions. For those of you that have not seen this, did not go to the town hall, they are on our website. So if you go to mableton.gov/get-involved, each one of the boards, commission, authorities are listed there. I'll be pretty brief about what these are in general. So typically what we call cabs. And there are three different components. They're laid out in our charter as to what they are, what they do, and what they can be. So the commissions are elements that review ordinances. They are involved with the city for members of the community to help us ensure that we are being relative, that we're also doing things in the city, that we are engaging. This could be anything from public arts to housing to veteran affairs. They're an integral part of what we do. They're there to help make sure that citizen input is consistent, but also serve as a body, as an official entity of the city to ensure that there's eyes and ears that are out there on specific items. They're also called upon to take on projects within the city that we need. Also, in times they're called upon to make recommendations, whether that's recommendations about funding, whether it's recommendations about where we decide to go as a governing body, also recommendations about art installations or locations for art installations, which will be something that public arts. We've already got some work lined up for some of these commissions, believe it or not. But I wanted to take the time to bring it up tonight to make sure that I had the opportunity to let everyone know, kind of, and be pretty clear about where we are with some of those. Our authorities. Oh, you have something on the
Just a real
commissions?
quick interjection. If you're looking for it on the website, you'll see City Council, and then you'll click the little caret to the little drop down, and it'll say Get Involved, and that's where the page is. It's kind of hidden, but that's where it is. Just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that.
So that's a commission. An authority is a little bit different. We just heard from Jason Gaines, who represents the Mableton Development Authority. Authorities are entities that sit outside of the city. So that would be like the Mableton Development Authority, the Downtown Development Authority. They have the ability to act outside of the city when it comes to raising funds, spending money, purchasing property. They are truly a quasi-government entity who work hand in hand with the city, but are not under direct control of the city. As it relates to us right now, we have the Mableton Development Authority. There is the soon-to-be Meet Mableton, which is the Visitor and Tourism Authority, and the Downtown Development Authority. There's those three. The last one I want to mention is a board. So in the city of Mableton, our boards, you could loosely look at them as quasi-judicial. Okay, give an example of the Alcohol Review Board. As a review board, so they're going to be reviewing applications for alcohol licenses for the city, determine whether that meets our requirements or not, and give recommendations to the council about that. There are other boards. There are the
aging.
No, I'm thinking of the zoning.
Oh, zoning review board.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So when there's variances, that zoning approval board, someone would go in front of them. That's a quasi-judicial thing. They will actually make a decision based on the facts and information that they have. And some of these authorities, like that escalation point of that is Cobb Superior Court. So that is a very important aspect of the city and what we have put in place. Collectively, these make up our caps. Again, there's 18 of them across the board. They are each unique in their own way. We'll be discussing more about the composition of that, like we were just talking earlier. Most of them, or I won't say most, some of them are actually dictated by the state as to what that composition could look like. We just heard earlier, even with the committees, sometimes there are specific ones. From the Mableton Development Authority, it's specific about who can be on those. The Downtown Development Authority has to have certain business owners within the downtown development area. So each one of these have slightly different requirements. I can tell you most of the commissions will be rather simple. They will be a member that's representing a 7-member board. But even with some of the commissions, it can be slightly different. Housing and some of the other things, again, have requirements from the state as well as the parks. But I will say, to kind of close this out again, is that go to the website, reach out to me, reach out to any of your council members, and ask, right? Ask about the process, show your willingness, but not just your willingness and your passion, also your expertise in the space, right? Your past history, how you could truly help us out in a unique way. We will need these boards filled, and I'll tell you, I spend hours every single week looking at other cities and how their cabs are structured. And I can tell you that a lot of cities throughout the state have vacancies. Some cities have lots of vacancies on their cabs. I don't want our city to be one of those with lots of vacancies. I know we're just starting, but I do not want us to be a city that has a website that has a lot of vacancies listed when you look at opportunities for city and for residents to get involved and be involved. Now, I will say with this, the next step for this, outside of council members and us determining who's going to be on those, is a timeline to roll these out, right? We're not going to roll out all 18 at one point in time. Well, the Mableton Development Authority already exists, but there's going to be others like the Planning Commission, which we've already made significant headway on. There's going to be Meet Mableton, which is going to have some requirements coming up very soon, as well as our Downtown Development Authority. Some of the others, quite frankly, will be based on how soon we can fill those spots up and be ready to turn them on. I'm not going to say we won't activate them until we have a full board or full commission, but we would like to see that, right? Some of the others about how much energy we get behind them. I know there's a lot of veterans. You've got 3 vets that are sitting up here, but the Veterans Affairs Commission, there's a lot of people asking about that, right? I mentioned the Arts Commission. We already have projects for that ready to go. So if there's a passion there, our Film and Entertainment Commission is going to be one that I'm really looking forward to. There's a component to that too, where I think just a month ago they were filming right here, right? So we want to be able to take advantage of some of that, and by saying take advantage of it, taking a leadership role, but there's also financial aspects where we could actually be getting money for films that are produced in the city of Mableton. So you know, this is kind of one of the last calls that I'm making before we really flip the switch on and start moving forward with some of these. So I want to make sure that we had an opportunity to discuss that, make a plea to the citizens of Mableton to go out to the website, reach out to your individual council members, and get engaged on these efforts. Now, we're going to talk, I think, more as well about once we have the cabs established. I talked about vacancies, but the opposite can also happen. We can have more people that want to serve on certain cabs than we have spaces for. For that, we're going to look at immediately look at volunteer opportunities, right? The way people can get on and work on and to be adjacent to those cabs without officially serving as a board member on that. We all know, look, just like us as a council, those boards are not going to be able to do everything that's going to be needed to be done. Yes, we will have staff as we continue to staff up that will also support those cabs, but we will also need volunteers as well. So I want to make sure we put that out there too. If you're not selected for one, it's okay. You know, we'll still find ways to make sure you can be involved and engaged. And whomever those leaders are of those cabs, we're going to make sure we stress to them to keep those other people that wanted to be helpful involved and engaged as it's necessary to do so. So, Council, do you have any other questions or comments as it relates to the cabs at this time? Wonderful, thank you. With that being said, we're going to move on to item 13B, which is the Mableton Day anniversary. There's a item on here about the financial benefit to the Mayor's Educational Impact Fund that we've placed on the agenda. Some backstory on this: the Mayor's Educational Impact Fund was started a couple of months ago. It was in conjunction with the Mableton Day, or the 1-year celebration anniversary. The Mayor's Educational Impact Fund was one of the nonprofits that participated over the weekend, primarily with the golf tournament that we had over that weekend. The reason for the Mayor's Educational Impact Fund is very simple. I've said this at council meetings before, is that a city can be no stronger than its schools. And there are gaps that we currently have within our schools. There's nonprofits that's been doing some of this work. As a city, and I hear this every single day, what are you guys doing about the schools? And the stark fact of the matter is there's not a lot, because we're not over the schools. There's not anything that we can do. But what I do know is that every day, every week, there are people that choose not to live in a Mableton or to move out of Mableton because of the state of our schools. And I love our schools. I have 2 kids, one son that's in Pebblebrook and one that's in Betty Gray right now. but our schools need help. So the reason for starting the Mayor's Educational Impact Fund is that because since the city cannot, we need to make sure that we have people throughout the city and elsewhere that are committed. And we have others that's been doing some of this work, but there's some gaps that need to be filled. And we're in the process of building out that board with some fantastic people that want to come in and do the work. But there is a question about the financial benefit that went to the Mayor's Educational Impact Fund as it relates to the Mableton anniversary. So to speak directly to that, there was approximately $7,000 that was raised as part of the golf tournament on that weekend. It was disclosed that the Mayor's Educational Impact Fund would be the beneficiary of that event. The event went off without a hitch. It was well attended by officials across the state, if you will, and across the county. And so that was that. There was $7,000 that was raised. That money did not come from the city funds. That was money that was raised directly by the Mayor's Educational Impact Fund. Those funds went from the golf tournament directly into, or over the course of the weekend, just say, it went from donors, basically, directly into the Mayor's Educational Impact Fund's bank account. So, Councilman Herndon, with that, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. The mayor has already addressed the topic of tonight, and I actually asked for this particular issue to be put on the agenda tonight. For those of you who attended the Mableton Day, many people said they had a really great time. Part of it was the golf tournament. And of course, after Mableton Day, there were questions with respect to monies that were raised by the Mayor's Educational Impact Fund at the city-sponsored event. And so there were questions with respect to whether there was a conflict of interest since the nonprofit was created by our mayor shortly before the event, and whether it conflicted with our charter at section 2.14, sections C and D. And since there was a number of questions with respect to how much was raised, where the money went, how it was going to be used, I thought it was important in the interest of transparency that we have a discussion publicly on this. So I've spoken already with the mayor, a couple of our council members, in addition to the city attorney, and I thought it would be best to open up a discussion where the city attorney can address any conflicts with if there are any conflicts with our charter. The mayor's already addressed what the funds were raised for and what the purpose of his nonprofit is, and then for any other council members who want to chime in on this issue.
Thank you, Mayor Owens, for your explanation, and thank you, Councilwoman Herndon, for bringing this onto the agenda so that we can discuss it today. Our charter has provisions that address conflicts of interest, and the charter states that if an elected official has a conflict of interest, whether directly or indirectly, then the conflict must be disclosed on record, and the official is to disqualify himself as the decision maker for that issue. The mayor did not disclose his interest. This was being the first time that I had learned that about the mayor's educational impact fund was when I saw the advertisements for it, asking for $100 per registrant. It was initially in the email from Mayor Owens to the council is that if any fundraising was to be done in the future, it would be to offset the cost to the city. It wasn't mentioned that it would be a fundraiser at all, let alone a fundraiser in which would go to a nonprofit that Mayor Owens set up himself the day before collecting funds and advertising for the event. The question is does a conflict of interest exist? And I want answers on what we do going forward. Is any council member allowed to set up a nonprofit and collect monies from city-sponsored events? I think that is a conflict, but I think it's enough of a concern that it should be discussed. So I'd also like to say that in the email, Mayor Owens stated that The events would not exceed $17,000. The event, the last figure that I was presented, and I was told it was not all-inclusive or complete, was almost $26,000. So being that it was so over budget, I think it would have been in the city's best interest if the money did go back to offset the cost. I also have an issue in that we have a resolution that we voted on and passed that while the mayor can authorize expenditures up to $5,000 without bringing it to the city council's attention or vote or approval, there was expenditures that were made, such as the event consultant that was hired that well exceeded that amount of $11,400. So I would like to know why the council wasn't notified, why this wasn't, the interest wasn't disclosed, why the provisions in our charter didn't stop this from ever becoming a question to begin with.
So, do you want me to address that first, Madam Attorney, or?
I can give you my commentary on it. It's just the council's discretion.
So I'll say this first and foremost. For those of us who attended, we had a fantastic weekend. And I felt that the citizens of Mableton deserved to have a celebration of our first year. It was multiple events that was carried throughout. The golf tournament was on Thursday. On Friday morning, we had a family fun run, which Councilwoman Ogg also attended, and I think many of us did. As we know, we had Mableton Day, that festival that afternoon, which was fantastic. We followed that up on that Friday with a Living Legends lunch for senior citizens. We invited senior citizens out across the city for a free brunch and entertainment and some awards that we had, which was wall-to-wall attended. And then we followed it up on Sunday, which we asked clergy from across the city to take part in acknowledging the one-year anniversary, which many clergy did, I attended 4 services that day. I think many of us attended some of the same service, as a matter of fact, that morning. So what took place over the weekend was just a fantastic event. As it relates to the Mayor's Educational Impact Fund, I've already explained about what we did that. The disclosure was sent out very clearly in an email that was sent out well before the event took place, acknowledging and letting all the council know exactly what was going to be happening, the agenda, the budget, where the line items were coming from, as well as the nonprofits that were involved with that. The Mayor's Educational Impact Fund wasn't the only nonprofit that was involved. There were several nonprofits. Some of them benefited. Some of them, all of them benefited, without a doubt. All of them benefited. But some of them also wrote checks directly to help make sure the event happened over the weekend that did not go into the city coffers either. There were some nonprofits that directly funded some of the events that we had, which specifically was the family fun run. So there was events that took place. There was no money that was exchanged from the city to the nonprofit. None of the nonprofits that were involved actually exchanging the money. So there was disclosure that took place by an email that went out again to the council that explained all the events, the nonprofits, who was going to benefit from those, as well as the expenditures. Now, as it relates to the line items on the expenditure, the emails that were sent did clearly state what the expenditures were going to be, where they came from in the line items that were approved in the city budget. There was no manipulation to the funds at all. It was all clearly spelled out in the line items. As it relates to any overages that went on, that was across the entire weekend. It wasn't related to any one particular event. I think most of the events went as planned as it relates to what the budgets were. If there's budget items, and this was discussed in a previous meeting, the city manager made a decision to add a third line item or move certain items in there to cover certain items that was specific. That wasn't anything related to any one particular event. It definitely wasn't because any one event went over budget. This was administrative overhead costs that went into this, and the city manager can take a moment to explain that if he likes. To the last point, which was the first point that was brought up, relating to if there was a personal benefit. There was absolutely no personal benefit that came out of this. This nonprofit was started out of a labor of love to try to close a gap for a serious situation that we have in this city that is impacting the city. This reason is called the Mayor's Educational Impact Fund. And it's because there's an impact that these schools are having on our city, and there's an impact that this city has to have on our schools. Some kind of way we've got to come together and close that gap. I'm tired of seeing people in my neighborhood put up for sale signs because their kids have got to go into kindergarten or into 6th grade, and they don't want them going to our schools. This is a serious issue that we have to attack, we have to face head on, and if we have to start a new nonprofit in the city to be able to do that, I'm the first to stand up to do so. There's zero financial impact or gain to be had with this. It is a nonprofit. I have not touched those funds. I am quite frankly disgusted in the fact that it's even insinuated.
Mayor Owens, I
that
think
for some reason that there would be some impropriety which was done with this. For the reason for this nonprofit is to help build the city and stand the city up. Now, many of you understand how nonprofits work. Nonprofits do not have owners, right? At this point in time, since I had just stood this nonprofit up, we do not have a board built out yet. We're in the process of building out that board. We have some fantastic people that want to step up and serve on that board. But the funds that were raised from that event went directly into that account. There was no personal, direct or indirect benefit to that. These funds, this effort is to help all of us, the entire city, and every single kid, student, and parent, and educator that works here. So with that being said,
I don't think the conversation is
with that being said, I would like our city or our city attorney to directly address the aspect of whether there was, in her opinion, a conflict of interest as it relates to our charter.
So Mayor and Council, based upon the information that's been provided to me, the conversations that I've had, I have seen absolutely no conflict of interest in any capacity whatsoever. And I'll tell you, part of the basis for my opinion on that is because, one, I did look to see the categorization of the registration of this entity, and it is a nonprofit. And a nonprofit doesn't belong to any person by definition of law. A nonprofit does not have owners. A nonprofit legally belongs to the general public. So this nonprofit is not the mayor's nonprofit, it's not any of the council members' nonprofit. It is a body that is owned by the general public. And because it is owned by the general public, it receives certain benefits, not only by the state of Georgia, but by the IRS. So that being said, based on what else the other documentation I reviewed, 100% of the proceeds went to the education fund for the benefit of Mableton residents. I have not seen any evidence that not even a single penny went to anybody else outside of the education fund. I have not seen any evidence that any funds were misappropriated. So I also made an inquiry and I asked, were any taxpayer dollars or funds or spending allocated and donated to this entity? And I was assured that absolutely no taxpayer funds or proceeds were donated or given with respect to this fund. And then I was also aware that all sponsors who contributed to this fund were made aware that this funding is not going to the city, but it is actually going to the mayor's educational fund. I have not seen any evidence whatsoever in any capacity of any financial interest or benefit by the mayor or any other council member. And for those reasons, it is my opinion that there is no conflict of interest, and I have found no evidence of any type of conflict of interest.
Madam Attorney, how did you determine no money was misused or that it did go where it's just based on the mayor's word, correct?
So I don't necessarily go off of someone telling me, because like, for example, someone can say, I didn't murder somebody, and I don't know that. But what I do know is that I have to look at and decipher the evidence that is presented. And the evidence that was presented to me included a 100% and complete lacking of anything to substantiate that there were misappropriations or that there were not even a dime, not even a cut up nickel, not even a cut up penny that's been ran over by a couple of cars that was kicked into someone's pocket. So because I did not see any evidence whatsoever of misappropriation or of financial benefit, I could not, in fairness to the mayor or any council member, attribute or claim that that allegation was anything other than conjure, speculation, or guesswork.
Madam Attorney, if I can just ask you, can you just kind of state for the record to clarify to everyone, is, according to our charter, it's okay for there to be a city-sponsored event and then the mayor, because the mayor can fundraise and then have those funds go into another entity, a nonprofit or what have you?
So I think the distinction here is that we're saying that the mayor's fundraising. So it's not the mayor who's fundraising, because a nonprofit is not owned by the mayor. So the public at large fundraised, because to qualify for nonprofit status, your ownership has to be legally determined as being owned by the public at large, and that is one of the primary reasons why you receive state and federal benefits from even operating as a nonprofit. But as far as the charter, when there's an alleged violation of the charter, the first thing you have to do is you have to look at what specific section are you alleging was violated. And the two sections that have been brought to my attention was one, someone having a financial interest. And that I conclusively and completely excluded as non-credible, because zero evidence had been presented to me that the mayor or any person, whether it's the mayor, any other council members, or anyone on staff, had any financial interest whatsoever. And because there was no evidence presented, I did not assess that to be a credible allegation or accusation. And then the second component is the personal benefit. If you receive a personal financial benefit, that no member of council or an employee should receive a personal financial benefit. And as I said earlier, I didn't have any evidence that the mayor or anyone else received a personal financial benefit, but only that the public at large, through the establishment of this entity, did receive funding from people who knew that they were specifically donating to this entity. So I think one of the issues may be not necessarily a legal issue as far as the violation of your charter, but a policy issue as far as what, as a body, you're comfortable with that goes on your advertisements. It appears to me that at least some of you may not be comfortable with nonprofits being promoted without your consent. And the way that you can cure that is through a policy, if that is a concern that you think should be addressed by the council. But as far as a violation, I did not see anything credible with respect to that.
Sorry, I would like to first say it's impossible to be conclusive, because once it's out, money is out of the city's purview, we can't inspect it. We don't know, because I know I cannot go and check the financial records of any corporation or nonprofit. So I think that's why these provisions exist in our charter, is so we never have to ask. There's just no way to know. So with as much, there's no evidence there, well, I don't want to say there's no evidence for it, but you're saying there is no interest in that the mayor is the spokesperson, the fiduciary agent, and creator of a nonprofit. That money, he used his capacity as mayor to make the decision, and the only one to make the decision on who would be awarded to be the recipients of the fundraiser. You're saying there is no conflict present.
I have not seen any evidence that the mayor has a financial interest.
So, excuse me, I just had this crazy question, because we've gone back and forth. We've heard our attorney, what she has to say on the matter. We've heard from kind of both sides of the story. It seems like what we need now is, as the attorney said, is policy in place to make all of us happy about how we do things, how we handle this. So it seems like we need to move away from the back and forth finger pointing into the situation where we now create policy. We've been talking about purchasing policies since we started this thing, and that's one of the main things that we need to do. I've spoken with Mr. Tanks, purchasing policies so that everybody's clear, everybody's on board, everybody understands what we need, what we can and can't do. This is just another situation where we've got to put it in a policy, write the paper out, make sure that the SOP is followed, and then keep it trucking. But I don't believe that continuing down this path is going to resolve anything whatsoever. It's just going to continue back and forth. We can go blow for blow, check for check, all that sort of thing. It's not necessary at this point. So, I would love to see us get past this. Let's start talking about city managers' announcements. We got other things to talk about.
Thank you, Councilman. I would just like to say I want to continue to advocate that the city partner with nonprofits to do good work in the city. And if any nonprofits, I think there may be some. I think our city attorney kind of mentioned this, but the Mayor's Educational Impact Fund is in name only, that it says the mayor. This is not mine. There's no such thing as a private nonprofit or personal nonprofit. As the city attorney said, this is for the city. This is for the residents, for the people in the city. So I want to make sure I stand on record loud and clear and say, as a city, we want to continue to partner with nonprofits. We want to be partners with nonprofits. I just sat on a roundtable yesterday with Mayor Norton of Smyrna and Mayor Alligood of Ackworth, and we discussed the importance of nonprofits and having nonprofits at the table, and being able to leverage the cities to be able to partner and bring good things and do good works. And Ms. Turner, you were there at that meeting, and I felt it was positive. And so I'm a bit saddened at the fact that we're here talking about this tonight after a great roundtable that the Cobb Chamber sponsored yesterday, specifically to talk about partnering with nonprofits. Because again, I will say there were multiple nonprofits that have partnered with us. There's nonprofits that
I'd like to call a point of order.
Are you?
This discussion is about the city's involvement and with the Mayor's Impact Fund. It's not to question the need or the good work of nonprofits. They do serve a great capacity in our community. That is not what's being discussed. Even if you serve on a nonprofit, you can still have an interest. A nonprofit can pay salaries to board members or to officers. There can be a potential personal benefit, and I think that's why it's in the charter.
Sure.
That this shouldn't have happened.
So your question, Councilwoman, is am I drawing a salary from the nonprofit?
No, that's not my, no.
You know the answer to that would be no.
That's not what the point of the discussion is.
Okay,
Was the charter violated in what you did by using your capacity as mayor to choose a nonprofit that you created a day before collecting funds? It was created as a vehicle in which to collect these funds.
So again,
is that a conflict?
I believe that we've realized that it's not actually the conflict, and that a policy needs to be put in place that comforts everyone to make sure that we know that we're not violating the charter.
So this is why I'm not comforted, and I do want to talk about this, is that one, it has to do with the charter. It's being just, well, okay, it probably broken, but that's okay. Secondly, we have a resolution.
Wait a minute. She did not say anything about a charter being broken.
I didn't say she did, I am.
You're saying
Okay.
that. Oh, okay. So legal, okay. Go ahead. Can you make it?
We have a resolution, do we not, in which we passed that said if any expenditure exceeded $5,000, the council was supposed to be notified. We weren't. So what happens? We have policies and things in place that's supposed to be these safeguards to even having these discussions, and they're not being followed, they're not being addressed. So I don't know that adding another policy is going to give me comfort when the policies and rules in place, we're still having this discussion.
Councilwoman, that was discussed about an overage that I think we had a consultant, Chris Pike, here that spoke to the fact that was the city manager allowed to add additional funding to operational items, and the answer to that was he absolutely was within his right to do so. That was discussed a couple of meetings ago, so I don't know why we're bringing that back up, because that was clearly discussed already.
Yeah, and as we continue to grow as a city, we're going to have these points where we're going to figure out that this is something we need to account for. And while I understand where you're coming from, I also believe that the processes are not generally in place yet to be able to govern what it is we're trying to do from some perspectives, and some things might have the appearance, but we need to be able to put things in place to be able to take care. I for one, understand my mayor, and I for one understand what he's trying to accomplish, what he's trying to do for this city. So while I don't, I did not attend the golf event because I was in the city of Atlanta working. So my apologies, but I still understood what was going on. And he gave us a whole bunch of information about what was going on, and it was out there. I, again, believe that we need to have better processes in place. I told this to the finance department, to the city manager, that we need to have this in place. And I, again, will state, there is nothing that we're going to do right now that's going to solve this issue.
I think it's important that we are talking about this. I think this sets precedent going forward. We may not always be guaranteed to have a mayor as scrupulous and of good integrity as Mayor Owens. We're not guaranteed that, so I would like to see that we have policy put in place today that I see too much of an avenue for corruption with what happened.
Amen.
So I would like for it not to continue going forward. Is that something that we can work towards?
Yep. Amen.
And I think that's why we're having this discussion, right? I think it's very important for us to, make sure that we are diplomatic when we're having these discussions. So far throughout this process, we've had conjectures and suspicions and false allegations, and we just need to make sure that, going forward, that, if a situation arises, that we have concrete evidence to support whatever claim it is that we have. And when we're having these discussions, that we can disagree but be respectful. And to, Councilman Ferguson's point, have the guardrails in place, have those checks and balances, and I think we'll be fine. We're in transition. The point of us being in transition is that, there are going to be some hiccups along the way. We're learning as we go, and we can course correct. But, I'm in agreement with Councilman Ferguson. The mayor had these events with good intention. We've already had our attorney who's confirmed that, there wasn't anything nefarious that was going on. And so I just think it's important that we, move past this, adopt a policy, and then, course correct as we go along. But, let's continue to try to be more diplomatic, as we're having these discussions.
All right, thank you. I'd like to wrap this up. We've already spoken that it would probably be good to, when we have a fundraiser for a particular nonprofit, to have it really advertised, and then maybe come back later after the funds have been raised and say, hey, this is what we've accomplished, and this is where it's going, and this is what we're going to use, use the funds for, and that way we can kind of cut down on any type of suspicion. Again, this discussion came forward because there are constituent inquiries, and because so much of the information was not readily available, I thought it important that we have a discussion about it, and I think we've come to a solution. I think, well, we haven't quite come to the solution, but we have a way to work toward that in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Councilwoman. And I want to say that we aren't quite there with the Mayor's Educational Impact Fund yet, right? We haven't had our kickoff. Again, we haven't solidified the entire board yet, but I'm looking forward to the time. I mean, we've got school principals that are looking at serving, and I don't want this to diminish that effort of what we're trying to do. So no, there's no website yet. It's built, it's being worked on. Just as this city last year when we were talking about different things going on and we did not have a website built yet. So we can't be hypocritical ourselves when we're in our own glass house when it comes to building something new. But I take your point very well, and I look forward to having a kickoff and talk about all the great things that has happened and will happen, and introducing a incredible board to us. But I'll lastly say this, before doing this entire weekend, we had talked about this for a year almost of putting this weekend together. And, when looking at inspirations, we looked at other cities and how other cities have done things. We looked at the city of Atlanta and their golf tournament and how they did that with their Mayor's Youth League, I think, Mayor's Educational Youth League. So I modeled very much after that. Cobb County has an annual golf tournament where they have benefits and proceeds that goes to a nonprofit that helps children. So, what we did wasn't novel in any way, right? We're definitely following a framework that other government entities have done in the past and continue to do so. I actually copied some of the language directly from the Mayor Dickens golf tournament that he had on Atlanta's website that when we were doing ours. So I literally lifted some of that stuff directly from what other cities were doing. But point well taken with this. I'm happy we were able to have this discussion, that we were able to get any concerns allayed, and have open and discreet conversations about this. So with that being said, I would like to move on if Councilwoman Herndon's okay. Yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Very quick comment, Ma'am, before we move on. I would just
yes,
like to make sure that the action item from this long conversation doesn't fall through the crack. I know we have so many things we want to do, so many processes to create, but what is the process for actually making sure that we document this and this process is solidified and adopted?
So there's a multitude of ways we can go with this. One of the things that we were just talking about cabs earlier. One of the cabs we're going to stand up is a special events commission. I was just talking with the city manager about this, and to help us make sure that we are advertising, that we're pulling things in, either in permits that are available so as to basically help entities, any entity that wants to hold events within the city, including the city. Right, so I think we look at the Special Events Commission as one of those areas that we can definitely use. I think when Councilman Ferguson made the comment about additional policies that could be in place, but proactive policies. We spent time talking about, in essence, a punitive type thing when looking at the conflict of interest. But I think what Councilman Ferguson is talking about is much more of policies that kind of drive us forward to help align them. And I think the Special Events Commission will absolutely help us do that.
Yeah, I don't believe it's a single policy at all. I believe it is multiple policies for our procurement department that need to be worked out.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to item 14, which is the city manager's comments.
Mayor, I have no comments, except I would ask that the council would take a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of real estate litigation and personnel matters.
Thank you, sir. Madam Attorney.
So Mayor and Council, I do have one request, and this was in communications with the Business Licensing Department. They have requested for the mayor to have authority to extend and waive penalties through the end of the year. So just on a month-by-month basis, if we need to extend the waiver for another month, for us to be able to go to the mayor and get that permission. So if you're inclined to make a motion tonight, the request would be authorization for the mayor to waive business license penalties through the end of this year.
Thank you, Madam Attorney. I know that this is something we've done a couple of times already, and this is to the benefit of the citizens and the businesses within Mableton, that they're not penalized really during this transition period of us taking on business licenses. The question I had with that was, it's kind of tangential to this, but are we in the phase where we are proactively reaching out to businesses that have not renewed as of this year with us?
Yes, Mayor, and I actually had a very productive conversation today with your administration and consultants and staff who are coordinating your business licensing efforts. I was informed today that the listing that is required through your licensing service provider has been completed, that it is scheduled to go to the licensing service provider tomorrow, and that within the next 48 hours, all businesses who have failed to register will receive communication and request and direction.
Great, thank you. I have no problem extending or waiving those fees throughout the rest of the year, because I do want all of our businesses to have the opportunity to come compliant with us in this first year without any undue burden. So with that, council, I would like to entertain a motion that we waive any fees associated with business licenses for entities within the city of Mableton throughout the end of this year.
And just to be,
Mayor, can we give you the discretion? Because I don't want to just say,
sure,
we do want to incentivize people who. Yeah, so you
true.
have the discretion, but we do want to incentivize people to not wait until the end of the year to act expeditiously.
Just true.
I'm sorry. My question is, are we talking calendar or fiscal?
Calendar. So it would be December through December 31st of this year.
So I'll make a motion to give the mayor the discretion to extend the no-fee business license model through.
Well, no penalty.
No fee.
Because we do have fees.
No
we do
penalty.
have the
Excuse me. Penalty. I'm hungry, y'all. Give the mayor the discretion to extend the no penalty for late fees on your business license through the end of the calendar year.
I second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. I'll call the question. All those in favor of allowing the mayor to have the discretion to waive all late fees and penalties not to extend the end of the year, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Thank you, Madam Attorney. Madam Clerk, do you have anything?
I did have a question.
No comment.
Thank you. Councilman Davis.
Yes, just briefly, always good to see everybody here as usual. Sometimes seems like we're preaching to the choir sometimes, but I just want to say this. Of course, everyone knows we're a new city, and with that, there are teething issues that happen. I think this is an example of what we saw tonight, just kind of a teething issue that's gone on. But I also want to say too that what we don't want to do as a city, of course, we always want to be transparent, always want to be accountable for our actions, those kinds of things. One of the things, and I'm just going to say this, me personally, what we don't want to do is we don't want to create ordinances and those kinds of things based on rumor, gossip, speculation, or innuendo. That's very important. I trust everybody on this council. We've got a lot of integrity and brain power right here before you. And what I will say is that I'll be the first to say that if there's any questions, if there's anything that is questionable or shady or whatever some people may want to say, I'll be the first to address it. I'll be the first to look into it. I'll be the first to say something about it. I really have not seen that so far, but everybody has their opinion. Everybody has the right to question, and I totally respect that. But at the same time, we've got a good group of people here. We're going to do great things for this city, and I continue to look forward to moving this city forward. So everyone have a great night, and if your stomach's not growling like mine is right now, get some food, get something to eat, and have a great night.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman?
+1 to everything Councilman Davis says. He's so wise. But seriously, if you're familiar with the 3 stages of group development, it is forming, storming, and norming. And guess where we're at? Storming. So it's going to take a while, and please be patient with us, and just please be patient with us and give us some grace. But I really want to share, at the last meeting, I shared that I would be sponsoring a backpack giveaway for the kids that are going back to school, in collaboration with the district rep, Tara Cummings, and also Pure Hope Church. And I just thought I would share some updates on how that went. It was really successful, and we were able to serve over 70 families, distributing about 225 book bags. We were also able to distribute 45 bags in church the following Sunday. We were also able to deliver 25 bags to the City View Elementary School in District 2. And we have 50 bags going to Ethiopia to support some needy kids. So I am really excited about that success, and it's possible because of your support, your donations, and your engagement. So thank you so, so much. I really appreciate you all coming tonight. Your engagement is really critical to our success, and it is very much appreciated. Thank you, and have a safe trip back home.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I have a few items, so please be patient with me. Summer is almost over. We have a few more weeks. I know most of us will be happy that the heat is going away. And I'm just happy and thankful that you guys were able to come out tonight, and those that are also watching online. I do want to say that I hope that your children had a great start to the school year. They're enjoying the first couple weeks of school. We've been relaxed, vacationing, and enjoying summer activities, but now it's time for us to get back to business and refocus our responsibilities on educating our youth. I do want to encourage everyone to support our local schools. Even if you don't have children currently attending, when I was growing up, education was a community effort. So it's going to be vitally important that we continue to support our teachers, our parents, and students as they navigate the new school year. So please consider lending your time, your resources, your encouragement, support, because your involvement can definitely make a difference. So this week, I had an opportunity to tour the Girl Scouts of Greater Atlanta. I was actually surprised to know that we have both a corporate office and a Camp Timberwood right here in the city of Mableton. It was actually, very nostalgic for me, having been a Girl Scout as a child and seeing all the tents, all the activities that they have for the girls. It really took me down memory lane. But when they had the audacity to give me not 1, but 2 boxes of cookies, like I needed that. So I just want to thank the CEO, Jaffarel, as well as staff, Helen, Mary Jen, the warm welcome for just showing us around the campus. It was really nice. It's a great opportunity for us to partner with them in the future and collaborate. We're certainly looking forward to supporting and working together with this incredible organization. The First Church, Christian Church of Mableton, has partnered with Bartow Family Resources Medical Mobile Unit to bring essential free women's health care to South Cobb. This partnership is going to be crucial because it's going to aim to provide high quality care for at-risk women focusing primarily on pregnancy health and related issues. Their mission specifically is to improve outcomes for mothers and babies by offering vital services such as health screenings, STD testing and treatment, pregnancy tests, ultrasounds, and sexual education. To introduce their services, they're going to be hosting an open house next Thursday, August 22nd, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Gordon Road Village Shopping Center on Mableton Parkway. It's going to be right next to the Popeyes. In the fall, they will continue to provide these services once a week. So I do want to encourage you to visit and learn more about this important initiative. And for more information, you can visit their website at bfrmedical.com. On Monday, I had the pleasure of attending a ribbon cutting ceremony in Deborah's district. We both attended. I'm always excited to hear about when new businesses come into the area. It's a Johnny's Pizza. The owners are very young and excited about being in Mableton. So if you get an opportunity, please visit Johnny's Pizza. It's over there next to the new Olive Garden that they're building. I believe it's Hobby Lobby in that plaza. So please definitely go over there and give them your business. As you all know, also we're in the middle of a historical election, and I just want to encourage everyone to make sure that they take the opportunity to vote early. If you know someone that isn't registered to vote, please make sure that you let them know that there are a lot of resources. They can go to Cobb Election Services. They can reach out to me. There are a lot of individuals that are disenfranchised, and gerrymandering is real. So please make sure that we galvanize and we vote, because this is a historic election. And then lastly, I do want to point out, I mentioned earlier, since the city has started, we've tried really hard, to work together. And we've been doing a really good job with all of us coming together. But again, we're going to have our differences. I try my best to really be a consensus builder, to actively listen to both sides, even when we disagree. I think it's important for us, though, to be less accusatory in our approach and more investigative. And so we will continue to move forward to build this city. There's going to be some training that we'll have, and then we'll also have a planning session that's coming up, a planning retreat that's coming up in the next couple months. And like Dammy said, we're in the storming phase, but we're gonna get past that. We disagree at times, and that's okay. It's just important that all of our voices are heard. And so, thank you so much again for being here. I think that's all I have. Yes, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Hawk.
Thank you all for being here tonight. I don't have too much to tell you about, except we do have a Keep Cobb Beautiful Adopt a Mile cleanup in District 4 this weekend for Hicks Road Community Pride. Volunteers will meet at the 5-Star Beauty Supply parking lot at 9 o'clock at 4635 Hicks Road to clean up a mile of Hicks Road. So hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Ferguson.
I've really been struggling with what to talk to you all about tonight, simply because as I look out in the crowd, we're missing a true Mableton person.
Yeah.
Too late.
Yeah.
Who when she was at our meetings, she was a ray of sunshine, and was always sitting there in her wheelchair and would give me a good, calming spirit. Miss Teresa Bailey passed away a few months ago, a couple months ago. Let's keep Ben in our prayers. She was one of those people that I knew she was going to be on my council for aging. She had great thoughts. And I met her with Terry Cummings, and I was like, why am I going to meet this lady? Turns out she was my neighbor, literally my neighbor. And I'd seen her house, I'd driven past her house for years. And she, keep Ben in your prayers. Yes, I too love the Girl Scouts. I have a Girl Scout, and I tell you that I am energized about the work that Jai is going to do. She's the new CEO for the Girl Scouts of Greater Atlanta, and she has the energy of a 2-year-old boy. Like, she is ready to run, she's ready to go. She's got a lot of great opportunities. I want to see people reaching out to them to figure out how we can partner together. We've talked about several ways that I'm going to get her into the school systems that we're going to do things together. And I will have her come here and talk. Last thing I'm going to talk about, give it up for Susan Hyatt, our city clerk. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you, you guys have seen us all with our laptops open here tonight. We're ditching the paper. And it's all because Susan got us to a point where we all have an online agenda management, online meeting management, meeting minutes, and all that sort of thing. I'm telling you this because it's available to you as well. So if you go to our website and you go to the city clerk's page, scroll down a little bit, you used to see, well, you'll still see them because I'm still testing the links, but you see a bunch of links down there in green. The first one says Civic Plus Portal. Go there, you can get all of the meeting minutes, all of the agendas that we've had, and you can follow along. It also gives you a link to the live stream that is going on if you can't get here in that evening. So thank you, Susan, for ditching this paper. I so appreciate it. So does my trash can. Have a good night.
Thank you, Councilwoman Herndon.
All right, good evening, everyone. The bad thing about being last is that everyone always ends up saying everything that I was going to say. So I'm not going to keep you. I do want to encourage you all to visit the new Johnny's Pizza that opened up in the shopping center where the Hobby Lobby is on East-West Connector. It's a really big place inside. It's got a bar, young energy, so take your families and support that local business. And we also have an Agua Vera that's opening up in the same shopping center. I understand it's going to be in September, so go and check them out as well. And for those of you who are interested in helping in Mableton, please don't forget our cabs, our boards, our authorities. Like, let's sign up and help the city of Mableton continue to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. There's a bubble tea place there too, right?
Yeah, there's a bubble tea
there
place.
is. There is.
Next to it.
Yeah.
Next to where the canteen is.
It definitely is. I want to, I looked over at Councilman Ferguson because I had Teresa's Bailey's name written right here. I've known her and her husband, I don't know exactly how long. I mean, they've been supporters of the city. They've been supporters of me in the past, but they've just been all around good people. And I became aware of it on Facebook on August 3rd, when her husband Ben said, I think it's time for me to come up with some air, share this terrible news with people. So I wasn't exactly sure how long she had passed and that we hadn't seen her around. And if you know Teresa, she's going to come around and she's going to tell you what she thinks about what's going on. But she was an absolute positive light. I do openly have concerns about Ben and hope that he's going to be okay. And so if you say in prayers for Teresa, say some for Ben as well, because you saw one, you saw the other. And so I hope to still see him here at council meetings and at other events. So if you do know them, you know Ben, please reach out to him and be a friendly ear to him as well. RLI, Regional Leadership Institute, I do appreciate it. I look forward to joining that program soon with our city manager. I am a proud alum of Leadership Cobb as well as Leadership Georgia. So I'm looking forward to seeing what ARC has to bring to the table for leadership. So I'm really happy with the fact to get to go through this program with our city manager and an astute group of people. I looked at the list the other day, and I'm really happy with the people that we're going to get to serve and learn with. Earlier this week, Marquee Monday is an event that the Cobb Chamber puts on every Monday where they bring distinguished guests and visitors in. And this past Monday, a couple of days ago, Senator Ossoff came. And as he normally does, he brings the goods. He talks about great things that are going on and how he's truly stepping up to the plate to serve the citizens of Georgia. And I take that a step closer to home and say how he's standing up and willing to serve the citizens of Mableton. He talked about Mableton a couple of times while he was there during the event. There was specific mention about the Workforce Development Center, which is obviously going to be here in Mableton at the old Fire Station 1 is being built out with. I've had conversations with him personally. Our city manager has met with some of his staff, and the commitment from our federal leaders are there to help us. So I'm excited about the partnerships that we have, again, not only here locally, but at the federal level as well, to help fund a lot of initiatives and things that we need to have happen. And second to that, I also spoke with HUD this past week. So I had a meeting with the housing development, what was that? Oh, yeah, so I'm fortunate enough I used to serve with one of the leaders of HUD, the Honorable Dr. Kimberly McLean. I served her in a lot of national security work we've done, and she now serves a leadership role in HUD. So she dispatched out a team earlier this week and told me directly and to share with the citizens of Mabel that HUD is going to do everything they can to help us. They understand the situation we're in as a new city, the proximity to Atlanta, our rising housing costs in the city, our need for affordable housing. And I added one more to them, part of our initiatives is the pathway to home ownership. Right, there's a lot of talk about people and the cost of apartments and how we need to have affordable housing, but it's important for us, for those people that want to go from apartment living into owning a home, I want to make sure Mableton is a place where they can actually do that. So the conversation I had around HUD talks a lot about, FHA funding that we can put in place, down payment assistance, so we can truly work with people that want to be able to get into permanent housing. They'll have a way to do that. A couple of things I wanted to mention was Trust for Public Land. If you guys are familiar with them, they've donated a lot of money and work into the city of Mabel, specifically along the Chattahoochee, where the goal is to make the Chattahoochee River more available to us. We are in a very, very sweet spot here in Mableton, where our city literally borders the Chattahoochee, and in a proximity to where we're close to it. Right, we share the Chattahoochee with the city of Atlanta, but Midtown and downtown Atlanta is quite a ways from the river. I was just had reached out to the chief of staff for the mayor of Atlanta today. We're going to have discussions about how we can better partner, but the goal is to bring more access to the river. Trust for Public Land, that is what they're all about. There's a trailhead that's starting here in Mableton that's going to go for 100 miles of boardwalk down the Chattahoochee, and we're fortunate that we have this starting literally right here. We're going to work to partner with them more, absolutely, because this is something that we should do, something that we want to do. There's a lot of people that's already put money up, quite frankly, here in Mableton to make this dream a reality. Some of you were involved in some of the processes. They had open forums to bring ideas and things we can do. There's going to be a kayak launch, there's a boat launch that's happening. There's already a boardwalk that's a stretch. I went down there myself to take a look at it. It is fantastic. We're going to have to partner with them more, and I want to see us partner with them more to be able to make this truly one of those landmark areas within the city. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. There's one other item that I think the city manager and I both are taking part in, which relates to ATL Transit Link, which is the connector, the new development that they're building, or transportation effort on 285, which basically goes from 20 to 20, the northern part of 285, to reimagine that, to rethink that. I'm serving currently on a committee related to that. The city manager's sitting on a technical committee for that. And I'm fortunate, he's fortunate, we're fortunate as a city to be a part of that, because the way that they drew up the policy around that was that only cities that actually touch 285 get to be a part of that. And I lobbied quite a bit for the fact that us to be on that, because I felt that citizens of Mableton that impacts us every single day. And even if you don't work somewhere where you're getting on 285 every day, we have people that drive through our city every day that is getting on 285. So, I'm fortunate they agreed, they saw the light, if you will, and they've now added Mableton as an official stakeholder in that project. So I look forward to be able to bring something back. Hopefully our city manager will have information to bring back as well. Do you have something to add to that?
Yes, sir, and I apologize for this delay. I thank you for giving the floor just for a brief moment, and I think Mr. Davis will concur. This is noteworthy for our citizens. There is a group through Cobb County Department of Transportation currently doing a feedback and community input on a pedestrian bridge across I-20 that goes down Factory Shoals. If you are familiar with the area right there by the fire station, and if you're going, I guess that would be, I don't know if it's north or south, but if you're going towards the water tower, crossing over Factory Shoals, fire station's on the right, and you're going towards Douglas County, that bridge crosses over I-20. There's been some accidents there, and so there's a group, I think myself and Mr. Davis, we're going to try to get the group to come to one of our council meetings to solicit input, because sometimes they don't get the input from the community. What do you think should be there? What's beneficial? And there's funding there that they're going to do something with that bridge, whether it's expand it, make it pedestrian safe, or have it to accommodate the heavy industrial traffic that's coming down south there. A lot of the tractor trailers and most of the accidents right there at Factory Shows in Riverside have been involved with tractor trailers. So myself and Mr. Davis, we did sit in that meeting. We spoke up. Mr. Davis spoke up for those in the district and for your side, Ms. Aldapo, to make sure that they would let our citizens know these folks will need input, and if you can participate, please make a comment and contribute, because they're going to base their plan design on input for the community. Ms. Davis, if I left anything out, please let me know.
No, you did. You went well. You did well. I did bring some material for you to look at too regarding that company. But as Mr. Tank stated, it is so important that the community be involved and provide that needed input, because that is an area that has been prone to accidents. I think there's been maybe one injury there. Luckily, by the grace of God, no fatalities, but there has been an injury there. So we want to make sure that our citizens are safe. And I'm not just saying because it's just in my district, but in the entire city. But since this is in District 1, we want to make sure District 1 folks are safe too. So.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Mr. Davis. You know, so the reason that I bring all of these items up is that we are without a doubt focused on transitioning services that we have to do to meet the requirements of the Charter and the Georgia General Assembly. But as you can hear, there's a host of other ways that we're involved in improving the quality of life for the citizens of Mableton. We're doing it at the federal level, at the state level, and we're doing it down on Factory Shoals as well. We'll continue to advocate for people. We'll continue to make sure more people get to the table, and we will work to make sure we are at tables where decisions are made as it impacts our city. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending tonight. I appreciate it. At this point in time, I would like to entertain a motion to go into executive session for real estate personnel and litigation.
I'd like to make a motion for us to go into executive session for real estate, personnel, and litigation.
Thank you.
A second.
A second.
Thank you. It's been made and duly seconded. All those in favor of going to executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Thank you. We will move into executive session. For those of you who will not stay, thank you. I do appreciate your attendance this evening, as usual. All right, thank you, everyone, for staying with us while we were in executive session. I would like to entertain a motion to take us out of executive session.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor of coming out of executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. No opposition. The ayes have it. Thank you for that. This takes us back to, let me make sure I get my item here. Item 13B and C. Again, item 13B was the consideration of approval for funding for the Mableton Development Authority and Economic Development Services. At this point in time, do we have a motion?
Yes, Mayor. I motion that we authorize the mayor to negotiate funding and an IGA for the Mableton Development Authority up to the amount of $100,000 annually.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. All those in favor of allowing the mayor to negotiate the approval of funding for the Mableton Development Authority and IGA for no more than $100,000 a year, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it. Thank you. Any other business in front of us this evening, council? Hearing no business, staff? Thank you. Hearing no business, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I want to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and duly seconded. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.